And that way you get prominent people from left who care about on the board. It's really, the governors always make sure that they're friendly. And then you have a chair, and the chair is the person running the day. Hey, Lil, from the day to day. Yeah. Well, do you want me to call? But it does mean they're thinking on their own schedule. And you have someone keeping on getting it. You don't want to renegade subs. But you don't have to jam all things together.
So Ken, the meetings are layered, like are they consecutive?
Here?
Yeah.
We were comparing it to Empress Development. Both. The other thing is not, you're off the hook in the sense that MBBA doesn't meet every month.
Quarterly, as I understand.
It's quarterly. But we have to meet every month because of the project pipeline and the responsibilities of HFA, the Housing Finance Agency, which is financing the construction of multifamily affordable housing, and SONYMA, which is also issuing debt to have proceeds with which to buy mortgages from first-time home buyers.
Okay.
And that kind of activity of the programmatic activity of the core of the agency.
Oh, you saved the day because Andy can't get
on.
on.
Mostly multifamily, mostly supportive housing, right? You'll see. You're always, by the way, you're always welcome to stick around and see the rest of the proceedings. But there's so much of that work, thankfully. The agencies, the staff, Roseanne and her team here are super busy. That every month we're basically taking ministerial actions to approve projects in that pipeline.
Okay.
Because you're allocating state resources to private entities for the development of affordable housing, some for-profit, some non-profit. And then also you'll see we allocate a lot of federal resources to local governments, county municipalities. Disaster programs, in fact. Well, in TSFC we don't do any much anymore. But that was as suggested.
When I was working with staff, we were never to schedule anything to me before 10.
20 years ago, the tobacco settlements happened against big tobacco, and state attorneys general got big windfalls to their states. Some states took that money and spent it.
I'd ask you how you like it here, but
and used to create an authority to backstop it.
Gotcha.
So that's like no activity now. It's kind of wound down.
really,
And
there is.
MBBA is another story. Andy's always saying, why don't we have more activity?
People were very
And it's
dedicated.
tricky legislation.
Right. We had a bill. Yeah.
We start? Yep.
Yes.
Nancy says start.
Hi, Sadie. Okay,
Okay, we got everybody here.
Who's gonna read fast?
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to turn things over to Diana. Surprise, surprise. You can take the requisite steps to formally open today's meetings. Welcome, everybody. I hope everybody, by the way, who's remote can hear okay. Make some noise or tell Lil or let us know if there's any problems with the connection. But otherwise, Diana, take it away.
I note that Jesse Olzak, representing the Director of the Division of the Budget, and Christopher Curtis, representing the Commissioner of Taxation and Finance, are participating in the meeting via video conference from the New York State Division of Budget Conference Center at the Capitol Building, room 131 in Albany. And what about Andy?
Andy is, we're trying to, he's in the Buffalo on the line. Andy, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, my friend.
Great. That Andy is
Okay.
participating from the Buffalo Regional Office at Electric Tower, 535 Washington Street, Suite 105, and that B. Gonzalez.
She's joining us later.
She's joining us later. Okay, so we'll do that later. Notice of these locations has been made public, and the public has the right to attend and observe the proceedings from these locations. We will start today with MBBA and TSFC. I ask for a motion to open MBBA and TSFC.
So moved. Second.
I will now ask for individual votes for each MBBA and TSFC board member. Chairman Adams.
Aye.
Mr. Olzak.
Aye.
Mr. Sanfilippo.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Good morning.
Ms. Miller.
Aye.
Okay.
And on that note.
I ask for a motion for
There
the
goes the meeting.
MBBA and TSFC Audit Committee.
Aye.
No, yes, okay, second.
Jesse, second.
I will now ask for individual votes from each MBBA and TSFC audit member. Mr. Olzak.
Aye.
Mr. Sanfilippo.
Aye.
Ms. Miller.
Aye.
Now we're going to take up our MBBA and TSFC business for the morning, and we will begin with the Audit Committee agenda. Item 1, minutes of the Audit Committee meetings of MBBA and TSFC held back on January 26, 2023, shall be deemed approved absent corrections from members and directors. You've all had a chance to see the minutes in the materials that Lil circulated. So we'll now move on to the Audit Committee's action items, and this is number 2, resolution recommending the approval of MBBA TSFC fiscal 2022 financial statements and schedule of investments. I note that in connection with this item, our staff has prepared and distributed to the boards this morning PowerPoint presentations highlighting, or at least they were available in the online, you could go to SharePoint and get at them. These presentations highlighting key points from the financials to be presented, as well as programmatic summary of the past year's activities, all very helpful, by the way. This year, as part of our new procedures, each board has its own presentation, which is good since I'm kind of like, stubborn and slow. I get to see it 3 times, and maybe it'll sink in by the 3rd time. Anyway, Daryl and Sherry going to come up here and present this, I believe. All right, at least so I hope.
Yep, it's on the laptops too, if people want to. It's called MBBA Audit, I think.
Here's one of mine. I'll share.
It's not in the board book.
It's not in the book, no, but there's a separate PowerPoint on the laptop.
It should be on your laptop. It's a purple tile. You click on it a couple times and bingo bango.
We're going to be doing board audit presentation.
Ready? Go ahead.
Yes.
Good morning, everybody.
This is the first time, and by the 3rd time, Daryl, it's going to be perfect.
Okay. Well, the agencies continue to fulfill their missions of providing affordable housing in the case of HFA and SONYMA, providing access to...
Daryl, turn this mic on. Just so. Right.
Yep, press, yep.
Bingo. Yeah, use the mic so that people.
Okay, the agencies continue to fulfill their mission of providing affordable housing in the case of HFA and SONYMA, providing access to the capital markets in the case of MBBA, providing a steady stream of revenue in the case of TSFC. Full transparency, we have had some operational challenges, as many of you may know, which is why we are bringing these reports to you now instead of earlier this year. However, we believe that we have made tremendous progress and are continuing to build on our success to provide improved and more timely reporting. Just want to take a quick second to thank the agency staff, in particular the accounting and treasury teams, as well as Tom Miller and the SAP IT team. I'd also like to thank Commissioner Visnauskas and our COO, Betsy Mallow, for providing their support and the necessary resources to complete the work which has enabled us to bring this reporting to you today. And a special thanks to Danielle Herbert, sitting to my right. She's the Managing Director at Ernst & Young, for her and her staff's efforts during this audit engagement. So we'll get started now. I'm looking at the MBBA and TSFC PowerPoint presentation that says fiscal year 2022 financial statements and program summary. I'm going to try to make this relatively brief because we have a number of slides and we want to try to get through them all, pretty timely. So the heading of the page reads MBBA and TSFC financial statement takeaways, and the MBBA and TSFC continue to have robust and positive impact on New York State affordable housing and production and availability. For MBBA, it had about $403,000 in fees. It's comprised of fees we charge on outstanding bonds, it's about 11 basis points. There's also a cost of issuance fee this year because we had a refunding of 2022 Series A. I think they were City of Buffalo bonds. That was $161,000. And then there's a service fee that MBBA receives from TSFC, which is its subsidiary. For TSFC, all of the bonds that were outstanding were redeemed in 2017. I think it was June. We've continued to receive the TSR payments. Those are the tax settlement revenue payments. And those are due to be paid to the state when called. We received those in perpetuity, meaning forever. We received about $401 million. I think last year we received about $391 million. So we're right around $400 million, what we normally typically receive. Right now, we're holding about $860 million in those payments, and we hold them and we invest them until such time as the state calls them for us to provide support. Everything I had for MBBA and TSFC. Now we have a slide that talks to the municipal markets overview. I think so.
Skip that, I think, for later.
Okay.
They're not issuing bonds.
Does anybody have any questions on the slide that I just read? Okay.
You know, can I just add a couple? So the key thing here is tobacco is a subsidiary of MBBA and issued $4 billion in bonds in 2003. Can't issue new bonds anymore, but all of those bonds have been paid. The money went to the state, and now, as Darrell said, every year we continue to get tobacco revenues, 800 million this year.
Almost
And
400 million.
400 million. And we wait for the division of the budget to tell us when to wire them the money, because they had originally sold us. They had originally sold us that, and so TSFC is essentially, for now, fallow until the statute gets amended. And MBBA did one deal last year. Andy was very helpful as an MBBA board member, because it was a refunding for the city of Buffalo bonds.
Mm-hmm.
And Andy actually, I say it again, was very active in the cost of issuance fees and the calls on that deal. But that was the only deal that we did, and as David knows and Andy knows, Ruth Ann asked that the James McIntyre, who's on the HFA board, lead a sort of a small group of board members to try to begin to think about ways to rejuvenate MBBA. So we had a call, and we're going to schedule some calls with attorneys and financial advisors to get us going. Okay?
This means we're gonna meet in perpetuity.
And the only thing that's in perpetuity are tobacco revenues. So anyway, I just wanted to get that.
Alex, just one more thing I want to mention on MBBA. If you look at the financial statement, it does show a negative net position on the balance sheet. This is the result of an accounting timing difference between when we receive the bond proceeds and how we're amortizing the bond premium. This will dissipate over time, and by the time the bonds are paid off, that negative position should be zero.
At that point, we.
Alex, could you, oh, I'm sorry.
Awesome.
Go ahead, Andy.
Alex, what was the end result of that refunding? What was it, what was the net present value savings that they end up with? I don't remember. Any idea?
It wasn't as much as they started out with, Andy, right? As you pointed out.
Absolutely. I was just wondering what the final result was in the savings versus the original projection.
It turned out to be lower, but there were still net savings even after the cost of issuance.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Anybody else? Any questions for Darrell or team?
Now before the MBBA and TSFC Audit Committee is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and seconds previously recorded, all voting in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Great, thank you. And just a note, Darrell, the PowerPoint's super helpful. We look forward to get that in. Thank you. Now there's no unfinished business, so I'll ask for motions, please, and seconds to adjourn the MBBA and TSFC Audit Committee meetings. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Joyce. Second?
Second.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor? Great.
Assuming
Aye.
the first and seconds.
Okay.
Just took your job tonight. Yeah, that's okay, go ahead. No, keep going.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
now we're going to move to, that's enough of the committee. So now we move to the MBBA TSFC agenda for the whole shebang. Number one, minutes of the MBBA TSFC meetings held on January 6th shall be deemed approved, absent corrections from members or directors. He paused, he waited. Okay, none of those. Two, resolution approving the MBBA TSFC financial statements for fiscal year 2022, the MBBA and TSFC audit committees. How about that? They just met and received a detailed presentation in connection with this item. It is now before the full boards. Unless board members have questions or comments, we will move to the vote. Any more questions or comments?
Ken, before we do that, Danielle, you want to say a few words to the MBBA board?
For the record, Danielle.
Yeah,
Come all the way over
maybe
here to
just
join
a
us
minute. I believe included in your materials was, sorry, I'll turn on my mic. Good morning, everybody. Included in your materials was an audit results document relating to all of the agencies, inclusive of TSFC and MBBA. And so maybe I'll just quickly point everyone to page 2 of that document.
I'm just saying, okay.
Yes,
It looks
exactly,
like this thing.
Ken. Thank you. On page 2 is an executive summary, so maybe I'll just really quickly touch on the status of the audit. What I will say is that for both agencies, we're at a point of really being substantially complete with our audit procedures at this point. As Daryl said, I know it's been a challenging time for the finance and other supporting departments in pulling together the financial reporting for the year. And so we are now, what I will say is substantially through the audit process. And so the financial statements that were included in your packages, are mostly through our review, although we've got still some levels of review, some final tie-out that we are doing on those, but working with the team to get these items to completion by the end of the month, and hope to issue our audit opinion by the end of the month on the financial statements of both TSFC and MBBA. And what we envision at this point, based on our results, is to have a clean opinion, what we call an unmodified opinion. And so what I will say is, that's our expectation. If anything were to change as we close out our procedures over the next little bit of time before the end of the month, we would, if anything substantially or significantly needed to change to the financial statements as they were presented to you, we would communicate that back. So we would work with the team to find a way to communicate back to you guys as the committee. But what I will say is that, like I said, expectation is to issue clean opinions on those financial statements. And what I will say specific to the audit procedures over TSFC and MBBA requires a lot of confirmation. So there are cash and investments, there are bonds payable, there are any mortgage receivables, all areas where we send direct confirmations to external parties. For both of these agencies, we have all confirmations back. So just, nothing open from that aspect, which I think is great for the audit process.
Thank you, Danielle. It's helpful. And I suspect you'll be around this together.
Exactly.
Perhaps.
So you'll get to hear me a
Share
couple
similar
more times.
view. But it's certainly great to have you here, and more importantly, to have you project a clean opinion when all is said and done, and the work's completed. Just because we'll get this up for David and others, the delay, I think it's in the materials, Daryl, is largely, from my understanding, this is what I want you all to correct if I don't, the extra time required to wind down information in the old legacy system and then get into the new SAP system, and all of the closing out, tying up, and tying together, right, moving that information from, we had several different really legacy information management systems for many years in these multiple agencies, and through a Herculean effort led by Betsy Mallow and others that took many years and lots of money, we have a new system, but you had to, tying everything out, bringing it all into the new system, not being very articulate about this because I'm not a technology person, but setting that up and getting it to work and testing it, a tremendous amount of kind of extra effort by Daryl and his team. And it's my sense that time was required. That's why the audit, the reports, the financial statements, the audits of them are delayed this year, but it's kind of, I see it as normally they're not delayed, but they were delayed because of this internal change in our information management structure and systems.
That's correct. And we view this as a one-off. This is not something.
As a one-off, right.
Yeah.
I never see you in May.
That's true.
In fact, maybe. So it really is because of that. Is that a fair way to describe it?
It is.
Danielle, is that more or less right?
Yep, I would agree.
Okay. Betsy?
Thank you, Ken.
Okay. Don't think Betsy hasn't been whispering to me about this over the course of the last few months. Yes, if there are no further questions on this, let's make it happen, Diane.
Now before MBBA and TSFC boards is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and seconds previously reported, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Resolution's adopted.
Thank you, everybody. Number 4 is a resolution approving the annual investment report, and number 3, he skipped number 3, the budget and financial plan results for the fiscal year ending 2022.
Now before the TSFC and MBBA board is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and seconds previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion will carry and the resolution is adopted.
Now we go to 4, resolution approving the annual investment report and the quarterly investment report.
Now before the MBBA and TSFC boards is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and seconds previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
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 The motions are carried and the resolution is adopted.
The last item, which is number 5, is an informational item. It's the current agency procurements or contracts in the lobbying restricted period. And this is in the materials, again, that were shared online. There being no further business for MBBA and TSFC boards, Diana will please ask for motions and second to adjourn today's meetings.
Assuming the first and second previously entered for the MBBA and TSFC boards, all in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
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 The motions are carried and the meeting is adjourned.
All
All
right,
right, can I just ask a quick question? So
please.
this new format now takes into account the MBBA, TSFC committees as well as our board meeting?
Yes, Andy.
Correct.
Okay, so this is it then, right?
That's it,
You're
yep.
done. You're done.
Okay.
You can stay. Andy, you're welcome to stay, but you're done.
Just for the record.
It's okay, I can't see anybody. We
I know, it's
anyway.
not, we can hear you loud and clear. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Okay, well, listen, everybody have a great day.
All right, thanks, Andy.
All right, bye, everyone.
Bye now.
Nice to meet you too.
David, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So I hope you like this
Nice to
new
meet you all.
system. See, you get in, get out.
Well, this is now
Some of us.
what I'm familiar with.
Yes.
Until we, it's what we're gonna do until we change it
Until we
again.
change it, I
Yeah.
figured.
Very nice.
It's gonna work great until we change it. Thank you,
Yes.
David.
So we're cool.
Now we're gonna move to the HTFC agenda. Diana, could you please open our meetings?
Yes, I ask for a motion to open the HTFC meeting.
So moved.
I will now ask for individual votes from each HFA, HTFC, AHC board member.
Aye.
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 Mitchell Zacks,
Aye.
Mr. Curtis,
Aye.
Ms. McGowan,
It is McEwen.
McEwen,
Aye.
excuse me,
It's okay.
Ms. Miller,
Aye.
and Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
It's James.
They should.
All right.
Oh, and he's here.
Hey, B is here.
We're Mike.
I am. Good morning. Aye.
Hi, B.
Hi, B.
Good morning.
Number one, the first item on the agenda is the minutes of the board and committee meetings held on April 20th, not long ago, 2023. The minutes shall be deemed approved, absent corrections from members and directors. Everybody okay with the minutes? Number two, resolution authorizing Section 8 project-based voucher awards for fall 22 for that funding round. And Dan is going to do this. I don't know where he is.
Just in time. Hi. Good morning, everybody. This is the third iteration from our fall 2022 rounds. This is in conjunction with the 9% awards. We're recommending 9 projects totaling 196 PBVs. 6 projects totaling 72 PBVs. And if approved, this would bring the totals for the fall 2022 funding round to 45 projects, 728 project-based vouchers. This is a very high number historically, but it is improving our utilization rate in the program overall. And these are good projects that we're supporting, most of which are in the HCR portfolio. Bringing stability to those properties. I'll take any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Dan on this? The specific distribution of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 properties is in the materials. Franklin, Monroe, Erie, Suffolk, Bronx, and Erie again. It was a little overweight in Erie County, but otherwise well distributed. If there are any questions, Diana, let's do it.
Okay. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board, all in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion is carried, the resolution adopted.
Terrific. Number 3, thank you, Dan. Don't go anywhere. Resolution authorizing an amendment to the contract with CGI Federal, Inc. What's that about?
Okay, thank you. So our emergency housing voucher program continues. You may remember this is the temporary program created by the federal government in 2021. We executed a lot of agreements, memorandums of understanding with continuums of care. We also chose to administer this program using one administrator for the entire state, given the nature of the vouchers. So that contractor was CGI. Their work continues, so we are looking to extend them for another year. and increase the value of their contract to reflect that extension. On the positive side, CGI has performed. This program has been already reviewed by the federal government through HUD and found to be in good standing. We just recently passed the 1,300 mark in lease-ups out of our 1,566 voucher allocation. Obviously, lease-up is a challenge as it is in the entire voucher program, given the limited supply of housing in the market, but CGI has done a good job of getting these leased up as fast as possible. And among large PHAs, we are doing very well in terms of the speed that we're utilizing these vouchers. So recommending an extension for CGI.
That sounds compelling to me. Anybody have any questions for Dan? Diana?
Now before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing an amendment to the contract with CGI Federal Inc., assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Resolution adopted.
Thank you very much, Dan. Let's go to 4, a resolution authorizing an increase to the Housing Trust Fund, to a Housing Trust Fund award for the Ridgewood Bushwick Senior Citizens Council, Inc. Brett is going to do this one.
Good morning. We're seeking the board's approval to award an additional $772,000 in Housing Trust Fund to the Harry T. Nance Apartments. It's a 67-unit project in Brooklyn being developed by Riseborough. The project has had numerous and lengthy delays that... Hey, Dan, can you mute? Resulting in a large permanent financing gap. We've been working with the city's housing preservation and development to also contribute to the close the remainder of the gap.
All right. Sounds good. Questions for Brett?
I just had one quick question. So you said HPD is also contributing to the gap?
Correct.
How much is it in here? How much they're putting in?
We're putting in approximately 35% of the gap, and they're contributing the remainder.
Long line at HPD for gap filling.
Is
So
that
it's good to
the
see it.
12 million? 12,500,000?
No.
Looking at the wrong.
No, the gap was approximately 1.4 million, I believe.
That's your full amount. Yeah.
Oh, that's usually the whole project.
Sorry, Joyce was just asking how much HPD had put in, which was about 12 million, but here we're just providing us 700.
I believe $1 million. So I guess that would put it at 1.6 million.
Yeah, well above.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looks good.
It's a $700,000 increase.
Versus that conversion.
Great.
Thank you, Brett.
Thank you, Brett.
Assuming the first and second previously entered into the HTFC board, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Item 5 is a resolution authorizing an increase to a Housing Trust Fund award for NRP Holdings, and Brett will do this one as well.
Thank you. Similarly, we're seeking the board's approval to increase an HTF award by $3.1 million to Selkirk Reserve. This is a new construction project in Bethlehem, which is a town just outside of Albany. It's being developed by NRP. The project, again, has encountered significant delays, mostly driven by local opposition. That led to some cost escalation and a large construction financing gap. This one hasn't closed on construction financing yet. It's a 2019 round, and we're actually going to be using these funds as construction financing to help close the gap that's been exacerbated by interest rate increases.
It's a big gap. Any questions for Brett on this?
What was the cause of the opposition?
The cause of the opposition was basically NIMBYism, folks not wanting the project built next to their neighborhood.
Okay.
The town instituted a moratorium, and eventually the town board chose to allow the project to move forward.
Okay, thank you.
During which time interest rates went way up. Okay.
Interest rates impact both construction, because if it's floating, our interest rates today are over 8.5%,
Wow.
which is a lot. And then, of course, lower proceeds on the perm, so it adds up quick.
Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried, the resolution adopted.
Great, thank you, everybody. 6 is a resolution authorizing community development block grant CARES Act awards. Crystal. Morning.
Good morning. This month, we do not have new awards. We are advancing 2 recommendations for increases on existing awards. Fulton County and the town of Macedon have successfully been running CDBG CARES small business and micro business assistance programs. The local programs are oversubscribed, and the county and town have requested additional funding to support more businesses in their local programs. So we are requesting approval to amend existing grant agreements and award an additional $250,000 to Fulton County and an additional $410,000 to the town of Macedon. These award increases are covered by a small balance of uncommitted CDBG CARES funds and funds that have been reallocated from unsuccessful awards. Full details are in the memo, and I'm happy to answer any questions from the members.
Very helpful. Thanks, Crystal. Any questions for Crystal on this? These are helpful grants to these communities. Let's do it.
Now before the HFC members is a resolution authorizing community development block grant CARES Act awards, assuming the first and second previously entered into the HTFC board. All in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion is carried and the resolution is adopted.
Great. Number 7 is a resolution authorizing CDBG grant economic development awards. Back to Crystal, please.
This month, the Office of Community Renewal is requesting approval to award $1,275,000 in CDBG funding to support expansion of a business and continuation of successful micro-enterprise assistance programs. The Office of Community Renewal is seeking approval to award funds and enter into grant agreements with the City of Amsterdam, Orleans County, and Otsego County. Full details are in the memo and briefing sheets, and I'm happy to answer any questions from the members.
Crystal, I know in the materials you described the corresponding Regional Economic Development Council, the REDCs. Do those groups have any influence over the allocation of these awards, or do they bring them to you? What's the connection?
For these awards, we operate the CDBG funding on an open round application system, and the REDCs are not involved. We do have a portion of the CDBG funding that we award for infrastructure and facilities projects that are part of the annual CFA process where the regional councils do weigh in on the scoring.
That's perfect, super helpful. I just wanted to get the connection. Thank you very much. Any other questions for Crystal on this allocation? Diana, let's do it.
Now before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing community development block grant. All in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion is carried and the resolution is adopted.
Crystal, don't go away. Number 8, resolution authorizing Land Bank Initiative Phase 2 awards, if you please.
Thank you. $50 million was included in last year's budget to support the services and expenses of land banks. In January, we launched a second request for applications for what we were referring to as the Land Bank Initiative Phase 2 to fund capital activities such as acquisition, demolition, building stabilization, and rehab. In May, we awarded just over $23 million for 19 land banks. This month, we're requesting approval to award and enter into grant agreements with 5 land banks for awards totaling just over $2.7 million.
Mr. Vice Director, all fire testing is now complete.
Sorry.
Thank you for your cooperation.
Crystal, I hope you can hear that and that you are breathing a sigh of relief that here on Lexington Avenue, in the heart of New York City, the fire safety testing is complete.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
With these awards and the earlier phase of funding to the land banks, we have committed over $37 million of the $50 million provided for the land banks, and we intend to release a new RFA later this year to commit the balance of funds and the newly budgeted funds this year. Full details are in the memo, and I'm happy to answer any questions from the members.
Any questions for Crystal on this? As usual, I fall back in my chair in awe that this program is working as well as it is. I was a skeptic early on, but it's great. It's really great. If there aren't any questions, Diana, let's make it happen.
Now before the HFC members is a resolution authorizing Land Bank Initiative Phase 2 awards, assuming the first and second previously entered for the HFC board. All in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion is carried and the resolution is adopted.
We've got more. Number 9, a resolution authorizing amendments to the DRI or Downtown Revitalization Initiative Awards. Crystal's back up to the microphone.
We are requesting amendments related to 3 existing DRI awards. First is approval to increase an award to the Olean Business Development Corporation by $44,250. This is funding reallocated from a different unsuccessful DRI project, and we believe it can be redeployed as part of Olean's downtown building renovation program. The second and third items are administrative adjustments to identify the correct awardee on grant agreements. Following approval of the original awards and grant agreements in January, additional participating entities were identified, so it's just administrative adjustments. Full details are in the memo, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
That's great. If there are any questions, let's do it, please.
Now before the HFC members is a resolution authorizing amendments to Downtown Revitalization Initiative Awards, assuming the first and second from the HTFC board. All in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
10 is a resolution authorizing a contract with Housing Development Services, Inc. Back to Crystal, if you please.
Thank you. We are requesting authorization to extend a contract with Housing Development Services, or HDS, for a 1-year term. This is the funds and grants management software that's been in use by our CDBG program since 2001. We pay an annual maintenance fee for the software, and we're recently advised that this should be presented to the board annually for approval. So again, we're requesting authorization to extend the contract with HDS for a 1-year term, and I'm happy to answer any questions from the board.
Thank you, Crystal. Sounds good. Any questions? All right.
Now before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing a contract with Housing Development Services, assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Crystal, thank you very much.
The motion is carried, the resolution adopted.
I beg your pardon, Diana. Crystal, thank you for your presentations. Congratulations on all the good work. Let's move to item number 11. Resolution authorizing an amendment to a +1 ADU award to be presented by Rachel, who's coming up. I can see her on the screen. Wait, I can see her right there. Good morning.
Good morning. This is a technical amendment to a resolution that was approved in January 2023. It's one of the +1 ADU program awardees, which was HPD. We're requesting the award to go to the nonprofit housing developer they have selected since then, which is Restored Homes. The amount of units in the grant funding is not changing.
Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Moving the project ahead.
Yeah.
Diana?
Now before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing an amendment to a +1 ADU award, assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board. All in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Rachel, thank you very much. All right, good work. Let's go to 12, a resolution approving the seeker documentation and classification of the environmental impact of Saranac Lofts, Mount Olive Senior Manor, and Schoolhouse Manor. And Heather Spitzberg will present this item. Please.
Good morning. If it's at all possible, could the mic be moved a little bit closer to Diana when she speaks? We're having trouble hearing her. Thank you.
Yep, we just tried that.
Okay. Thank you. This morning I am presenting 3 projects for classification as unlisted actions and negative declarations made under the State Environmental Quality Review Act. The 3 projects are the Saranac Lofts project, which is the new construction of 70 residential units at 120 Broadway in the town of Saranac, Franklin County. The Mount Olive Senior Manor project, which is new construction of 65 senior units at 703 East Delavan Avenue in the city of Buffalo in Erie County. And Schoolhouse Manor, which is rehabilitation of a 3-story building for seniors and individuals with disabilities at 1 North Pearl Street in the village of Oakfield, Genesee County. None of these projects had environmental issues warranting an environmental impact statement, And at this time, I ask for all 3 projects to be classified as unlisted actions with negative declarations. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Heather. Any questions for Heather? Okay, let's do it.
Now before the HTFC members is a resolution approving the secret documentation and classification of the environmental impact of Saranac Lofts, Mount Olive Senior Manor, and Schoolhouse Manor. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board, all in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion is carried, the resolution adopted.
Terrific. Let's do 13. Resolution authorizing the extension of the contract with Elation Systems, Inc. without a competitive award process. There must be an explanation for that. So let's turn to Kim Hettinger.
Good morning.
Hello.
This is request is regarding Elation Systems software for RHC, formerly known as the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery. We are in the final push of expending our Sandy Irene Lee grant. And we would like to continue using our MWBE Section 3 and invoice processing software until we have fully expended the grant funds, instead of procuring for a new provider at this late date.
Right.
We're asking for a 2-year extension and $1.1 million to pay for annual licensing fees, potential final development, and per invoice processing fees.
And how does Daryl feel about that? The man has been saving us all this money. That's coming up later in the agenda. Any questions? Any questions for Kim? All right, this works. Let's do it.
Now before the HTFC members is a resolution approving, there's a resolution authorizing extension of the contract with Elation Systems without a competitive award process. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Kim, don't go anywhere, please. You've got number 14, a resolution authorizing the extension of contracts for temporary staffing services, again, without a competitive award process, for which, of course, there's an explanation. Back to you.
In the same vein, this is a group of staff that in some cases have been with us 7 or 8 years. We would like to continue using the same staff to finish out our work on Sandy, Irene, and Lee grants.
Okay, so this is a staff that they were with GOSER.
Yes.
But they're from staffing service.
They are from staffing service. We're talking about 55 employees over 5 staffing services that will gradually roll off as our construction projects finish. But at this late date, we don't want to replace staff.
What's the timing on, so when you say these 55 people that are coming through these agencies, as projects roll off, how are we talking about, you know? Are we gonna be doing this every year?
No.
Okay.
The Appropriations Act of 2023 that passed this past December lifted our 10-year deadline for the Sandy grant. So we do have a final trickle of projects that we're going to be working on until 2025. And at that point, either the staff will either roll off as their projects end, or we will find spaces for them in the permanent RHC model.
To bring them on as employees of the agencies.
That's correct.
Right. Yeah, no, I think this is, subject for another day, but it's an important labor management issue, right? That's reliance on so many contracted workers as opposed to state employees, unionized state employees. So we should be sensitive to that, right?
I agree.
Okay. My turn?
Yep.
Now before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing contract for temporary staffing services without a competitive award process. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion is carried, the resolution adopted. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Kim. We have 15, resolution designating signatory authorities and authorizing the rescission of prior resolutions. Sounds like we're changing some signatory authorities here.
Yes, Dina's here.
And it looks like Dina's going to help figure this out.
Hi.
Aye.
So we are seeking approval from the board to establish signatory authority for two of the members of RHC. As Kim just alluded, you'll remember that we unwound the office formerly known as GOSER and have now made.
It was never a nice name, really. It was kind of weird, you know? Gopher. I never liked it.
How do you think RHC rolls off?
It's like everything else, alphabet soup. It's like, there's more letters. Everything else, a bunch of letters.
So we have established the permanent office of better named Resilient Homes and Communities, and we need to establish two signatories. So we are asking for approval for Katie Brennan, who serves as the executive director of the new office, and for Krishna O'Neill, who serves as the general counsel.
You trust him? All right. Any questions? Let's do it.
Now before the HTFC members is a resolution designating the signatory authorities and authorizing the decision of prior resolutions. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Thank you, Dina. The remainder of the agenda items are informational. There will be no presentations unless requested by the members. Please don't do that. Item 16, review of the seeker concur actions. 17, review of seeker type 2 actions. Item 18, review of current agency procurements and contracts in the lobbying restricted period. In all seriousness, any questions, comments, anything else for the record? There being no further business for the HTFC board this morning, Diana will please ask for motions and seconds to adjourn today's meetings.
Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board, all in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
The motions are carried, the meetings are adjourned.
Thank you very much, Diana. Thank you, all of our HTFC members. Now it's time to do some business for HFA and AHC. So Diana, would you be kind enough, please, to open up our meetings this morning?
I ask for a motion to open the HFA and AHC meetings. Motion?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
I will now ask for individual votes from each HFA AHC board member. Mr. Adams?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Olzak?
Aye.
Mr. Curtis?
Aye.
Ms. McKim?
Aye.
Ms. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
Aye.
And Ms. Gonzalez?
Aye.
I ask for a motion for the HFA and AHC audit committees.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I now ask for individual votes from each HFA and AHC audit committee member.
Aye.
Mr. Olzak?
Aye.
Mr. Curtis?
Aye.
I ask for a motion for the HFA Finance and Program Committee.
Second.
I will now ask for individual votes from the HFA Finance and Program Committee members.
Aye.
Mr. Olzak?
Aye.
We'll begin with the HFA AHC Audit Committee agenda. Number 1, minutes of the Audit Committee meetings of HFA and AHC held on April 20th, 2023 shall be deemed approved absent corrections from members or directors. Everybody okay with the minutes? Terrific. Now we're going to go on to the action items for this morning. Number 2, a resolution recommending the approval of the HFA fiscal 22 or 2022 financial statements and the schedule of investments. I note that in connection with this item, the staff prepared and distributed this morning to the board's PowerPoint presentations, should be on your laptops, etc., highlighting key points from the financials to be presented, as well as a programmatic summary. Again, I always appreciate that part. It reminds us of all the good work that's done during the year of the past year's activities. This year, as part of our new procedures, each board gets its very own presentation. Darrell, welcome back.
I can. Okay, so we're going to start with the PowerPoint that says New York State Housing Finance Agency fiscal year 2022 financial statement program summary. And if you go to the page that right after our general takeaways, we talk about the takeaways for HFA. Okay, and it's continuing to have a robust and positive impact on New York State affordable housing production. You see that we had $145 million in increase in our net position, which is income. That number is a little misleading because we have subsidy monies that come in through the housing plan, which comes in as revenue. When those monies go out, it's expense on HFA. So when you have a timing difference between when the money comes in one fiscal year and it goes out another, it creates the illusion of profit when it's really not. So it's basically a timing difference, that piece of it. That's not the whole $145 million.
There'll be a note. I have a funny feeling in the financial statement of this, right?
I think a more profound number to look at in terms of trying to determine the HFA's impact in terms of reducing affordability. Because when you look at the production, the 1.8 billion of new bonds issued, that's about an $850 million increase over the previous year. And that generated about $87 million in fees collected. I apologize if that 87 million, it may say billion on your copy. It should be 87.7 million in fees collected.
It says million.
It's
Okay,
correct.
corrected, okay. And that's a $30 million increase over the previous year.
Wow.
Those fees are made up of primarily, we have one-time fees, which is basically 2% of the bond issue. We have servicing fees, which are 25 basis points based on the outstanding mortgage. And we also do tax monitoring fees, which are the greater of 1% of the affordable rents or $10,000, whichever is greater. Those are the biggest fees that come into the fee structure that are sort of pushing the 87 million in fees. The one-time fees are up almost $30 million year over year between fiscal 22 and 2021. So we had a really good productive year in HFA in terms of issuing bonds and mortgages. And the mortgages.
You know what Alex used to say?
Yeah.
Don't spend it all in one place.
And bonds are good.
Yeah, they also, I'm a wise guy out. Bonds are good.
And as
Bonds
you
are
can see,
good.
the mortgages are also up. We have 16.6 billion, which is about a $300 million increase over the previous year. So those are the highlights. And are
Great.
there any questions on the slide?
Is Melina here?
The slides that follow on are similar to the PowerPoints for the other entities, correct?
That's correct.
You know, the U.S. market overview, housing issuance,
Right.
and the aggregate HCR issuance, right, 2.8 billion, et cetera.
Correct.
James loves those slides.
Well, there is a special accomplishment slide. You know, let's not be modest here. At the end, the HFA 4 bullet points of program accomplishments is worth noting.
And in slide 8, HCR, the whole thing, was the #1 housing bond issuer in the nature in the last fiscal year.
Yep.
Congratulations. That's outstanding.
That's SONYMA and HFA.
That's a combined over $2 billion, 6.5% of all the mortgage debt in the country, right?
Really?
I mean,
You have to
That's
focus on the
impressive.
debt.
we have to pay it back.
We pay the debt.
Yeah. Okay.
We have
Any
a ceiling.
questions? Any questions? James is here. He's been quiet this morning, so far. All look good to you?
Yeah, I guess so far so good.
So far, so good.
Is Melina going to do an affordable HRB?
Can we just, I mean, Danielle, do you have a comment on this, like as you did last time? Do you want to make a comment
Sure.
before we?
Maybe I'll just take a moment in case anyone who wasn't at the prior meeting. In the materials was a financial statement audit results document. Thanks, Ken, again. And so just maybe commenting on HFA specifically, certainly one of the large organizations, large agencies, as we were just talking about. And so what I will say is that we are substantially complete now with our audit procedures. Also intend to issue an unmodified opinion, a clean opinion, and working towards that by the end of the month. Working some things through our levels of review around our audit procedures and the tie out of the financial information in this new SAP system, but well into our procedures on that, I will say. And maybe just also comment, there's a summary of, following the executive summary is a summary of our areas of emphasis, really the financial statements, and if you kind of look at this most significant financial amounts on the financial statements, we have kind of a short summary of our procedures there. What I will say is a lot of our procedures rely on external confirmations to banks, trustees for your cash and investments of the agency, directly to the bondholders to confirm the bonds outstanding, and then mortgages receivable confirmations to those entities that owe the amounts back to the agency. And so I'll say that our confirmation procedures are complete except for 3 outstanding confirmations that we are working to get back still on the mortgage receivables, but that's 3 of 63. So I will say that we have made very significant progress and expect to be able to get those back. And so I will say, really maybe my final comment there is just around the adoption of a new accounting standard. So just wanted to note for anybody who saw it there is also just a brief notice, brief comment around GASB number 87, which is leases. Something we've been talking about probably for a number of years. changing the accounting for leases, in that leases that were previously considered operating leases, there's always been a distinction of two different kinds of leases in prior guidance. There is still that distinction. Now the items that were called operating leases previously, which were not recorded as a lease liability on the agency's books, are now going to be. So for your significant or material leases now this year and then going forward, you would expect to have to record a lease liability for the present value of the lease payments for the term of the lease. And then you also record what's called a right of use asset. So it's really a gross up on the balance sheet, if anyone could picture that. Really, you're putting an asset up for that value of your ability to now use that asset, and then the lease liability. And so that amount was not reflected for the adoption in the draft of the agency's financial statements that was included in the materials, but we will incorporate that into the final version of the financial statements prior to issuance. It's an approximate $50 million gross up, I would say. So that lease liability and right of use asset is approximately $50 million for the agency. So I'll just wanted to call that out as one item. What change we are expecting as we finalize the reports.
Danielle, I have one just, it's a question, just curiosity. But this is, I'm going to guess, the first, EY audit of the agencies coming out of the pandemic. And I'm just curious if traditionally you'd spend a certain amount of time testing and actually being here at the offices. And during the pandemic, that was probably harder, so you might have done more remote. Now that we, let's hope, have this pandemic behind us, has it changed the practice or the interaction, your time here versus time remote, time with the team?
Yeah, what I will say is we continue to be primarily remote throughout these audits, but my hope would be to get back to now a hybrid situation. I think the balance of having us on site at times, but not on site and camped out here like we were previously, sometimes for months on end. And I think being more strategic with the team. So, my thought going forward would be to kind of co-develop that plan with Daryl and team on having a hybrid situation, I would say, for our field work.
Interesting. Great. Has it worked for you, Daryl, on this?
It has very effectively. Open communication lines that I don't really see a slowdown in terms of the way we collaborate.
Good. Any other questions for Danielle, Daryl, the team?
Oh, we have Michelle for the liquidity slide, Ken.
Oh, good.
It's slide 15.
Like this.
Michelle Okusanya is our treasurer.
Well, do you want to walk us through this one, Michelle?
So for the agency's HFA interest rate exposure.
Yeah, Danielle can give you the microphone.
And if you could speak a little louder. Okay, for the agency's interest rate exposure, we issue standby bond purchase agreements and swaps to mitigate the interest rate risk. So for HFA, our liquidity exposure is 148 million. 130, and our swap to mitigate the interest rate risk, we have $121 million in swap. We have 2 swap providers and about 3 liquidity providers, and we just try to diversify as much as possible on those. And that's basically it with those.
One of them is expiring this year, the TD Bank.
Yes, and we have not negotiated as yet, but we will either negotiate to extend with TD or get another provider. But the market is, there's not a lot of banks, that have the capacity, and the rating, which is important. So we most likely will extend with TD Bank.
Will this be the first negotiation on an extension in a higher interest rate environment?
Yes, with HFA. We have done it with SONYMA. And we just went to TD Bank also. SONYMA.
How are rate or terms on renewals?
Good.
Yeah.
We got 0.2 for SONYMA.
Okay.
In fees. So it went down.
Went down. other questions on slide 15, liquidity and swaps? Okay.
All right. One other question, just for next year, what do you think timing is for next, I mean, is it like now with the new system, is it like real-time audit, it's like, or like real-time?
We're going to get back to the regular schedule. We present the financial statements in January.
Okay.
If there are no further questions for the team, Diana, let's do it.
May I take the license to say one thing before we?
Absolutely, please, Betsy.
First off, publicly, thank you from me as well, Danielle, to you and the ENY team. This was not an easy year, but thank you for your incredible diligence, patience, and true partnership, which Daryl and Sonia have always said, but I also believe wholeheartedly. And then to Daryl, Sonia, Michelle, and their team on 8, I mean, Daryl didn't have hair before, but he wouldn't have hair if he did. They have been working tirelessly after a tremendous marathon to get BAM online. Now another marathon to get this done. It's really remarkable. Daryl never changes his tone. So on Friday we had a call with Ruth Ann, and he said, "Oh, it's done." And it's like, wait, it's done. Why aren't you jumping up and down? And it's just an incredible amount of work. So thank you both. Thank you to everyone in 8. It's really remarkable.
Thanks, Betsy.
Thank you, Betsy, for that.
Okay.
Well-deserved recognition.
Absolutely.
All right,
Okay, let's do it now.
let's do it.
Now before the HFA Audit Committee is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously recorded, all voting in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Let's go, Diana, to number 3. This is always my favorite. This item has been deferred.
There we go.
There is no unfinished business. Let's ask for motions and second, please, Diana, to adjourn today's meetings, or the meetings of the Audit Committee.
Assuming the first and second previously entered, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. The HFA AHC Audit Committee meetings are adjourned.
Great. So now we're going to go on to the HFA and AHC agenda for the full board's consideration. Number 1, the minutes of the HFA and AHC meetings are held on April 20th, 2023. Thank you all. And of the HFA Finance and Program Committee held on April 20, 2023 shall be deemed approved absent corrections from members or directors. Okay. Number 2, resolution reviewing and approving the mission statements of the agency. Diane, you going to do this?
I can do it.
All right.
I can do it.
Let's go.
So in your materials, you recall, I believe this was back in January, we, at the board meeting, we presented the mission statements and for HFA and AHC, and the board members, excellent board members, had some comments and some thoughts on how we could improve those mission statements. We took it back, had a few rounds here internally thinking about it, and are presenting to you today these revised mission statements. In your materials, you see both the clean and the black line. The black line is a little bit easier to read. And I would just open it up to our board members and see if they have any thoughts or comments on that.
Works for me. Any questions or comments from board members about the revised mission statements? This always takes a lot more work behind the scenes than you let on. These can be lengthy discussions.
Yes.
Moving
the words around.
Moving the words around.
Just to get it right. Alex can vouch for that.
No, but this time we did more than move words around.
We did more than move words around. We took into account the comments that we had from our board members, and we also wanted to incorporate sort of other thoughts that the staff had put forward.
And I just want to say thank you for that.
Yeah, I was
This
going to
is
say
B in
this reflects.
Syracuse.
Yeah, hi, yes, B.
Hi, B.
I wanted to
I
say
just
that
want
this
to say,
reflects.
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go.
I hate this button. I just wanted to say how much I appreciate your listening and then going back and reworking, right? To get closer to what I think is really the intention of the agency and the work that needs to be done.
And what I wanted to say was that this reflects really the comments from B, from James, from Sadie, from Joyce on Green, as well as from some of the SONYMA board members who initiated the discussion. Much appreciated.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's all much improved. And thank you, B, for your work on this and for your your comment there. I'll note that the hotel commercial conversion that language stayed in. And we just did a hotel deal, or we're trying to do a hotel
Fine,
deal in
yeah.
JFK last month. So we want to keep that up. I mean, there may be more work involved in that right here, not far from where we're sitting right now.
What's happening with office conversion?
That's not in here.
Anything happening with office conversion?
What do you mean,
Mm,
generally,
yeah.
or as it
Generally.
relates to the mission statement?
No, for us.
Oh, we do a lot of conversions of schools, and I think we've maybe probably done some office buildings outside New York City, right? We obviously don't have so many in New York City.
Yeah.
We've done a number upstate,
Yeah.
in downtowns like Syracuse and Buffalo, where former office buildings are apartments. It's much easier to do it there.
Yeah, they're configured differently than they are in
Right.
downtown New York.
Yeah, we did one in downtown Rochester, the name is like escaping me, but it's right in the middle. We
Right
did the
in the middle,
affordable up on the
yeah,
top of the
yeah.
building, and so more of a
Stores.
non-New York City, I think, for us.
Yeah.
Good. Well, congratulations. Good work here on bringing the mission statement kind of up to date and having it be more descriptive of where we want to go. Diana, let's get it approved so we can move ahead.
Now before HFA, AHC boards is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. The first and second previously recorded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 The motions are carried and the resolutions adopted.
Number 3 is a resolution approving the HFA financial statements for fiscal year 22. The HFA Audit Committee received a detailed presentation in connection with this item just moments ago. It is now before the boards. Unless board members have questions or comments, we'll move to the vote. Well, you are all here. It's the same cast of characters.
Now before the HFA board is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Number 4, budget and financial plan results for the fiscal year ending in 2021. 2021, really? Or 22, is that meant to be 22?
Should say 22.
I think that's a typo. Ending in 2022. Again, we have seen this, and so Diana, let's do it.
Now before HFA board is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and seconds previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Number 5, a resolution approving the annual investment report and quarterly investment report. Any questions? Diana?
Now before HFA board is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
We're going to defer number 6. It remains a mystery. Next time.
Did we do 5?
We just did it.
I just wanted to note that the reason we brought that back is because James had some comments on the investment report the last time, which we corrected.
Okay.
So I want to thank him for doing that.
Good.
That was the footnote on page 127 or something.
Thank you. Thank you, James.
It was the weighted average versus the whatever calculation of the investments.
Thank you for
Much appreciated.
making the suggestion, the correction. I'm glad the team was able to take care of that. We're going to defer number 6, as I say, which means we go to an informational item number 7, current agency procurements, contracts, and the lobbying restricted period. That's in the materials, and you're familiar with that. We'll now move to approval of the HFA projects on our agenda for this morning. So we're going to start with item number 8. Resolutions of the Finance and Program Committee and of the HFA members recommending approving the issuance of tax-exempt and/or taxable fixed or variable rate bonds in an amount not to exceed $25,555,000 and an amount not to exceed $18,123,133 in HFA subsidy funds for a project called the Francis Johns Apartments and Frederick Douglass Towers Phase 2 project in Erie County. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right.
Right
Find my materials here.
Okay, so
Yeah.
these are 2 separate projects. They're being financed together, basically for cost savings. Both sites are owned or will be owned together by the nonprofit group Bridges Development. Bridges is the development arm of the Buffalo Municipal Housing Authority. Many, if not all, of the public housing authorities, especially upstate, have their own development arms they created to develop projects on behalf of the Public Housing Authority. It allows the Public Housing Authority to maintain ownership and control while also being able to kind of get involved in the development process. They typically utilize HUD's RAD conversion program, which is HUD's primary means for the preservation and creation of affordable affordable public housing. It creates project-based Section 8 rental assistance to the project, and that really benefits the low-income residents and helps provide a steady stream of revenue to the project to maintain its operations and financial stability. So using all of these means, the public housing authorities, the projects with sufficient tax credit investment, they convert to all affordable tax credit partnerships, and with this project-based Section 8, they're able to maintain and continue long-term affordability. So this is the case for these properties in this proposal here. Francis John Apartments, 62 units for seniors age 62 and older, and Frederick Douglass Towers Phase 2 with 112 units for families and seniors. Both properties underwent a tax credit conversion previously in 1998, establishing the buildings as low-income affordable housing. The Francis John building is a 5-story elevator building. It's the older one of the two projects. It was previously mixed-use commercial space, originally built in the 1880s. It was repurposed many, many times over the decades. Finally, in 1998, it was converted to, like I said, the affordable housing under the tax credit program. Frederick Douglass Towers Phase 2, on the other hand, was built as affordable housing in 1955. It's 2 buildings, 8 stories with elevators. Incidentally, the Phase 2 denotes it as separate from previous low-rise project called Phase 1 that was built nearby. That's why they're calling it Towers Phase 2. Both buildings are about 2.5 miles east of downtown Buffalo. Frederick Douglass is about 1.25 miles from downtown Buffalo. Both projects are about 1.5 miles from each other. At one point, they were state-owned by the Buffalo Municipal Housing Authority, and as I mentioned, they underwent a tax credit conversion in '98 through the Housing Authority's development arm Bridges. Section 8 project-based rental assistance is currently provided to all units in the project. That's 174 units in total. Now they're both coming back in today. Their tax credit compliance period expired 10 years ago. After 25 years of wear and tear, the buildings are in need of substantial renovation, particularly Francis John. Current physical conditions at both locations and many of the units are at a particular level of need. The apartments, some of them cannot meet standards to maintain the project-based Section 8 that they're getting. HUD requires that these units are maintained what they call housing quality standards, or HQS, and the project is required to report to HUD and make sure that these units are maintained at that level. They're having trouble meeting that at the current time with some of these units, which is one of the reasons they're coming in to us for refinancing and renovation. The project-based Section 8 that they have is crucial. It's a steady stream of income. It's crucial to maintaining the properties. So at about $166,000 per unit, the rehabilitation costs are substantial and address both current conditions, getting the units back up to meeting those housing quality standards, as well as meeting further energy efficiency standards to meet our agency's 20% energy use reduction requirements for existing buildings. Just a note, they did look into full electrification. We're trying to encourage that where we can, especially on existing buildings. But there are many considerations which unfortunately did not allow them to meet full electrification in this project. It would cost an additional $12 million to the budget, which is at least a 30% increase. It would require an upgrade to the local infrastructure to accommodate the increase in electric capacity and delivery. And it would also add an extra debt burden on a project that has a fixed rental income, even with the Section 8 assistance. And it also would have required long-term displacement of the senior residents, most of them who are over age 62. It was just determined not to be logistically or financially feasible in this case. However, they are meeting several energy efficiency measures that our agency requires, and then some. There'll be full upgrades to the heating and ventilation systems, electrical system upgrades, new lighting, LED, Energy Star appliances in all the units, an overhaul of the building's plumbing systems, roof replacement, and security and fire alarm system upgrades. In addition to the energy efficiency upgrades, there'll be renovations to all the residential units, flooring, doors, and windows. Infrastructure for building-wide Wi-Fi will be completed as well on all the buildings in the project. The substantial renovations, along with the new financing, the restructuring of existing debt, and a new 40-year regulatory agreement with full maximization of the project-based Section 8 will hopefully result in both financially and energy-efficient project that will continue to benefit these low-income seniors and families in Buffalo for decades to come. Thank you.
Very good. All right. I like the second building, by the way. What was it originally?
Francis John, it was originally like a warehouse.
Some kind of warehouse, yeah.
Yeah, it had some historical preservation element to it.
It's good looking. Great. Well, are there any questions about this? comments other than it looks like a good solid project for Buffalo, 2 important buildings?
When will it come online?
The rehabilitation period is about 2.5 years. Plus about a 6 to 8 month lease up period.
I just have one comment. I appreciate the added cost and the inability to convert it to all electric, but these buildings do look like they would sit up nicely for solar. And I know in the coming IRA benefits, there's a lot of solar money out there.
Yeah, particularly with the towers, we looked into that. In order to, the towers, the roofs aren't large enough for them to make it energy efficient, feasible for the solar power to actually benefit on a cost analysis.
The other big item that's coming is EV charging in parking lots potentially. I'm not suggesting for this one, but just in the future, there are opportunities to try to get at some of these other transition benefits through the Inflation Reduction Act.
I think our design guidelines require a certain amount of charging stations.
Oh, good.
For parking. I forget what the minimum requirement is.
That's great.
I'm being told by Lillian to move the mic between the two of you.
Great. Well, any other questions on this project in Buffalo? If not, Diana, let's do it.
Okay, now before the HFA members and the HFA Finance and Program Committee are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously entered for HFA and for the Finance Committee. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Motions are carried, the resolution is adopted.
All right, that's terrific. We're going to do number 9, resolutions of the Finance and Program Committee and HFA members recommending and approving an issuance of tax exempt or taxable fixed or variable rate bonds in an amount not to exceed $98,470,000 and an amount not to exceed $23,600,000 in HFA subsidy funds. It's a big project. For 2435 Pacific Street in Brooklyn, Kings County. Julie's here. Who's talking about this one?
I will be presenting this one.
All right.
So this is a new construction project, a new construction supportive housing project, and it is located in East New York, Brooklyn. So this is another project pursuant to the East New York rezoning. You may notice that a lot of our New York work has been pursuant to this rezoning. This project is unique in that it is also an example of a collaboration with a local church that was East New York based. And the church is the seller of the land. It will actually be under a long-term lease. And the church will also occupy space in the newly constructed building. This is a large project, 236 units. And 142 of those will be supportive housing for both individuals and families who are suffering from or living with serious mental illness or substance abuse. We will be collaborating with HPD on this project, so they will be contributing some of their capital subsidy, and the service and operating will be the city's New York 1515 program. So referrals will be coming out of New York City Shelter. This is a 10-story building plus cellar. Amenities include offices on site for social services, social storage, community and retail space on the first floor. I mentioned that the church will occupy some of that first floor space, not to operate for worship services, but for other social services and community services. The mechanicals are on the roof on this one, and there will be significant open space that is shared, landscape recreational area behind the building. As I mentioned, this is a collaboration with the Love Fellowship Tabernacle Church as partner. There's also, since this is for families, a children's room, reading room, computer room as part of the amenities. The development team is Alembic Community Development. They have successfully developed with the HCR sites. The contractor is Mega, the architect is Slice. These are all entities that have long and significant successful experience with the agency. I will note that on the energy side, this project will not be pursuing the CEI funds. However, they are reaching, we do have a NYSERDA program coming in, so they are reaching other NYSERDA programs as well as energy tax credits in the Con Ed Clean Heat program. The reason why they're not pursuing CEI is this is kind of a project that was sort of in that in-between as we were rolling out the program, and to go back and redesign seemed to be, was inefficient due to the delay in costs that would require, and we felt comfortable that they were reaching other NYSERDA and energy goals. So they are not pursuing CEI on this one. And I think I will conclude my comments there, and I'm happy to take any questions.
I mean, it's well described, Julie, in the materials. I wonder if, and your overview is super helpful. So the question is, does anybody have any additional questions for Julie? What's the name of the, how can I forget with them, but the main kind of central Brooklyn affordable housing development? One Brooklyn, one, what's the name of that whole initiative? Vital, thank you.
Oh, Vital Brooklyn, the governor.
Is this part of that area?
No. Is it part of the area? It's not part of the initiative.
But it's part of the East New York rezoning.
It's not actually. The East New York rezoning was the city-sponsored rezoning that was on specific blocks within East New York. Our Vital Brooklyn initiative is actually, it's near, many of the sites are nearby, but I don't know that any of them, at least on my side of the house, are in East New York.
In the overlap with the rezoning.
But we're focused in Central Brooklyn, and that initiative was focused on the lowest income areas.
And the big site of the former mental health hospital, right? There was a gigantic site.
The OPWD.
OPWD.
Brooklyn Developmental Center.
Yeah, BDS.
Yeah.
Or BDC.
Oh,
right.
BDC
That's
is what you're asking
yeah,
about. Yeah, you're right. That is kind of East New York, but it's, I always think of it as like further out. But yes, BDC, I guess, is technically
kind of a
East New
core
York,
of the Vital Brooklyn
It is?
site, right?
Yeah. Okay.
It's huge.
Yeah. So we have two phases of that project under construction right now.
There's a lot of construction going on where the 3 and the J meet. What's that called? That, the main subway hub in East New York, the junction. Broadway Junction, right? And think of the East New York rezoning the city did. Isn't that close to Broadway Junction?
That's right. And so this Pacific Street project is not far from Broadway Junction.
Right, it wouldn't be because it runs all the way down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
How does the boiler and the geothermal work? Is there? I saw it's geothermal, so it's I mean it's interesting. It's super interesting, but I'm just curious how the mechanicals of that work and doing have we done geothermal before?
I know that we have done geothermal. Unfortunately, I don't have the technical knowledge exactly of how this works. I know that it's heated below ground, but that is about the limits of my technical understanding of how these different technologies work.
It's just a little confusing because it says there's a boiler, but when you do geothermal, it's typically a ground source heat pump. So you don't have a boiler, but there could be, because it might just be hot water. But is Samantha in the room?
She's not here. I was looking for her.
Just curious. It's great to see geothermal.
And there's a solar array on the roof, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I can get clarification.
I was sitting next to, I was at the Fed thing yesterday, and what's her name from Con Ed was there, and they're very focused on geothermal corridors and figuring out how to district heating and other ways to bring value proposition, and if we can get it into affordable housing, it'd be great. So.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Everybody good? Diana?
Now before the HFA members and the HFA Finance and Program Committee are resolutions to be adopted that will transmit in connection with the audit. Assuming the first and second previously entered for HFA and for the Finance Committee, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motions are carried, the resolution adopted.
Terrific. Let's go on to number 10, resolution of the Finance and Program Committee and the HFA members recommending and approving the issuance of tax exempt and or taxable fixed or variable rate bonds in an amount not to exceed $34 million and an amount not to exceed $10,415,176 in HFA subsidy funds. And there's more, an amount not to exceed $418,000 in NYSERDA Clean Energy Initiative funding for the St. Clair project in the city of Yonkers, Westchester County. Back to Julie.
All right, so the St. Clair. St. Clair is located at, well, it's 10-story, 86-unit building that is located on Main Street in downtown Yonkers in Westchester. So this one is a great example of transit-oriented development in that it is located nearby the Metro North Hudson line, easy access through the rest of the Hudson Valley and to New York City. So the city of Yonkers has been steadily investing in transit-oriented development and downtown development. So this project is complementary to and supporting Westchester's local development and understanding that there is just a huge demand for affordable housing in Westchester County due to its close access to the city. So we're excited to be able to promote this as a transit-oriented project pursuant to our state goals. This is a 10-story building, and the AMIs are ranging between 60% of AMI and 80% of AMI. There is no supportive housing in this. This is a straight new construction project. So this building offers some great amenities in addition to its great location. It includes fitness room, community room, common outdoor roof deck, and there's 34 parking spaces exclusively for tenant use as required by local zoning and site plan approvals. Let's see. This project is meeting all of HCR's criteria for green design and sustainability. The building will be all electric for heating, cooling, and domestic hot water. I'm going to highlight a couple of the technologies that they're incorporating. Higher R value insulation in walls and roof for a tighter building envelope, LED lighting, high efficient hot water heaters, again, sealing of the building envelope to ensure the tight envelope retains energy efficiency, and low flow faucets in bathrooms and kitchens and toilets, I'm assuming, although it doesn't say that here. This project is being developed by McQuestron Development, whose principal is Rella Fogliano, who has successfully built and owned over 800 units of affordable housing and has been financed by the agency in the past. The project is also leveraging state tax credits and brownfield tax credits. And I would also mention that there's a significant amount of local investment here. So Westchester County is contributing home funds. There's also ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act funding coming from the locality, a pilot through the city of Yonkers IDA. And yes, those are all the local monies coming in. And then I guess the other local project that this local initiative that this project benefited from was the Yonkers Community Development Agency has a land acquisition program. So this project was able to benefit from that to significantly reduce acquisition costs. So I will conclude my comments there, and I'm happy to take any questions.
All right, thanks, Julie. Questions about this project in Yonkers?
Just a comment, it's great to see 100% affordability in this building in that location where they've developed so much market rate. It's amazing how much Yonkers has changed in this neighborhood. When I started at CPC 31 years ago, there was one building on the river that was half full. It was a distressed condo. There was literally nothing else there. So it's unbelievable. And so much is market rate. Every time I come down on the train, there's another building coming out of the ground on the water.
Yeah.
But this is right in the mix, and it's great to see it. So, and it's all electric.
Corner coffee.
Well, I don't, 2,000 square feet, so I wonder if it would be like revenue to, would it be revenue to the builder? That would be great.
You know, I don't know, I don't have in my notes here if they've identified a tenant yet, and so typically in a situation where we're this early on, and maybe if there's not an already dedicated tenant, we don't necessarily underwrite commercial income, but it can become a benefit.
Other than the washer dryer.
Well, right. And then the developer also has the option to condo this out if they choose. So, you know, it would be highly unusual that we would underwrite any income to the mortgage necessarily at this point, but it has the potential to add income for sure.
Hopefully it's a neighborhoody, kind of a mom and poppy store and not a Starbucks.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? I mean, but also with the 10-story, you know, this kind of a building, you could just imagine all sorts of great uses for that commercial space there that would make it, you know, really give it a sort of sense of community there.
And provide additional income.
Well, that we're not counting. To Julie's point, that's gravy.
It's very walkable down there now. They opened up the river and it's a lot of traffic, so I'm sure they'll be able to use it, but 2,000 square feet's not gonna generate that much income.
No.
You might break it up into smaller or something, I would think. I'm not so familiar with the area recently, so, but
I recommend you
if
take
it's
the train up
dense,
and
then
walk
I'm sure
around.
there's.
You won't recognize the place.
And so this is actually walking distance to the train station.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
right there.
That's great.
It's amazing.
All right.
Towers everywhere.
Let's make it real.
Okay, so.
Let's get, Julie needs a lot of money for this thing.
If only it was my money.
Let's see if we can get enough. Now before the HFA members of the HFA Finance and Program Committee are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously entered for HFA and for the Finance Committee, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion's carried, resolutions adopted.
All right, very good. We're gonna go to, looks like number 11. Resolution Finance and Program Committee and HFA members recommending approving the issuance of tax exempt or taxable fixed or variable rate bonds in an amount not to exceed $89,420,000 and an amount not to exceed $23,792,959 in HFA subsidy funds and $9,180,225 in federal housing trust funds for the Wyandanch Building L project in Babylon, Suffolk County. Another transit-oriented development, as we know. Julie, you're still up.
Kenneth?
Yeah.
On the previous project, there's also a bar.
There's a bar?
St. Clair's Salon and Bar.
Might just be a rendering, might not be an actual.
I think that's great for nightlife in downtown Yonkers, right by the train station. Why not? But now, Joyce, we go out, you know, we're taking the Long Island Railroad, non-Metro North, and we're gonna go east to, and get off at Wyandanch, which is town of Babylon. And this is a big multi-year project that's really got a lot of good things going for it. Julie, tell us what's happening.
Yeah, so this is a huge initiative that's happening in Wyandanch. As the chairman indicated, it is a transit-oriented development. It's located in the town of Babylon, Suffolk County. Two things I'll note. It's really exciting that we've been able to bring 4 Long Island deals in 2 months. There's whatever window of opportunity opens. I'm really proud that we were able to slide these 4 deals through that. So this one is building 5 of a 10 building planned master plan called Wyandanch Rising. So the sponsor on this is Albany's. They've been involved in the earlier phases and will also be involved in later phases. And they were designated as the master developer by the locality in 2011 for this revitalization effort. So this is the first of the buildings that are going to be constructed on the south side of the LIRR tracks, and the land there is currently vacant. And I should mention that the previous deals were both 4% and 9% deals. So both sides of the agency have been engaged on this initiative. This is a 218 unit, 5-story building. There will also be 177 units of parking. The development includes approximately 8,000 square feet of community facility space. There is not yet an identified tenant, but it is anticipated that there will be a social service provider that is providing local job training, education, arts, tutoring, something around this universe of occupants that will be targeted for leases in this building. Amenities include community room, fitness center, on-site laundry, access to outdoor space, and also access to outdoor amenities that are provided by the other phases of Wyandanch Village. So this project is also exciting because it's the second one in which we're collaborating with Suffolk County on an initiative they have to increase the availability of affordable units for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So last month we talked about this program on the Matinacock project, and it will also be happening on this project. So the locality is providing infrastructure funds, and that's what ties us to the OPWDD. To the IDD units, and then OPWDD is going to be providing through their sponsor, whose name is FREE, F-R-E-E, service and operating support for those 7 units. The locality is contributing $500,000 in home funds. They've also secured a pilot from the Babylon IDA, and Suffolk County funds include the workforce housing, which I referenced earlier, for the infrastructure. And then this SOAR money that you see for $525,000 is specifically to help support the initiative for units for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We're excited about this one. The GC really worked hard to line up all this local financing in time for us to get here. So we are excited about bringing the 5th of 10 buildings to Wyandanch, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you, Julie. There's a lot going on here, particularly in the, you've got some great renderings to look at.
Yeah.
Anybody have questions? Good morning, Professor Ford. Nice to have you. We're finishing up some HFA business here, or trying to. Anybody have questions?
No questions, just a comment that it is fantastic to see so much happening on the island. And at such low levels of affordability, which is great.
Yes. And you pointed out this started in 2011. Right? The first, at least that was the groundbreaking, because I was there with your predecessor, Commissioner Towns.
Yeah, it's a great site.
Yeah, so it seems like a long time ago. So 12 years in, but this is the 5th building going up by Albanese, right? And it's on the other side, and it's just good. It just keeps moving along.
It's just places like Long Island where the AMIs are so high, the average, it's really important to get as low as possible on the percentage of median, because $2,800 might seem affordable, but if you're really poor, it's not.
I know, yeah.
So it's nice to get down to 30 on this, because it's really.
And what do you think of the apartment composition? The biggest are 2 bedrooms, right? The greatest number of 2 bedrooms. Does that seem appropriate? I'm just wondering how, that is still the town speaking, right?
You're still battling.
You're battling family size. Right.
Partially that, and definitely that. And I think my mind first went to thinking, I wonder how this complements the unit mix on the other buildings that we're doing, and I just don't have
know. Yeah, you
that
have to look
in front
back.
of me right now.
My guess is it's probably similar, but I don't know. I don't remember.
We did a
lot of
senior building.
studios
The
and
last building
one-bedrooms.
that opened there was a senior building.
Okay.
Okay.
A harmless population.
A needy one. I mean, certainly a needy
Yeah.
one.
But it's progress, right? I think there's
Every
that
little
old,
bit.
yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's really impressive what's been done out there.
And it's 40 acres. I forgot it was so big. A lot of
both
land.
yeah, it's both,
Both
sides.
sides. It's a lot of land.
Yeah.
So more to come. You're gonna be busy.
Wyandanch is gonna have a lot more affordable housing
Yeah,
by the
exactly,
time this is
exactly.
done, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's
All right, any other questions or comments for Julie on this one? Diana, let's do it.
Now before the HFA members and the HFA Finance and Program Committee are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted to them. Assuming the first and second previously entered for HFA and for the Finance Committee, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye. All right,
Motions are carried, the resolution's adopted.
let's go on to number 12. A resolution of the HFA members authorizing the amendment of certain HFA bonds with interest rates based on the expiring London Interbank offered rate.
This is a James special.
And this is a James special, but he doesn't get to do it. He can ask questions about it.
We're expecting.
Hi, Amelia.
Is that microphone? Yeah, okay, good. Make sure your microphone's on. Morning.
Good morning, I'm Yelena. I work in the debt issuance unit at HCR. This is Kevin Murphy from Hawkins. He is the bond counsel who took the lead in orchestrating discussions and negotiations with all the various parties related to LIBOR. The proposed resolutions before the HFA board relates to 20 conduit project bond resolutions listed in the memorandum. They include projects all over New York City and Brooklyn, from Flatbush to to Williamsburg, and then all the way downtown to the Upper East Side. There's 20 projects, as I mentioned, and each of these projects have outstanding bonds that are held by one or more banks and that have variable interest rates that are calculated based on 1 month LIBOR. The banks include Bank of America, Capital One, HSBC, JP Morgan, M&T, TD Bank, and Wells Fargo. The 1 month LIBOR will no longer be published after June 30th. The bondholders have requested at HFA, with the bondholders and the borrower's consent, to amend the bond documents to remove 1 month LIBOR and replace it with another interest rate index, which is expected to be the secured overnight financing rate, SOFR.
Yelena asked me to come up in case there are any technical questions on this, but just for some background, you all know probably that LIBOR, London Interbank offered rate, is expiring because it was originally developed at a time when banks in London were actually making loans to each other for various tenors. That practice receded, and they no longer were actually making those loans, but the index continued, and quotes were gathered for those loans, and it became more of a hypothetical exercise of here's what we would lend, and that became sort of subject to manipulation, and so the UK financial regulator discontinued it. There's various tenors and currencies. 1 month LIBOR was US dollar 1 month LIBOR was the most commonly used in all kinds of bond transactions, loan transactions. It's the last to be discontinued, and it ends June 30th. So some of your 80/20 direct purchase, not publicly offered, held by banks. Some of these are currently using 1 month LIBOR, and HFA can approach the banks and ask them which variation, which substitute rate they wanted to use with the borrowers. So generally, those are based on SOFR, which is the secured overnight financing rate published by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, which is based on overnight lending in the repurchase market. So variations on that are being used as the substitute.
When will we know what it's going to be? Like if it's SOFR or something else?
We know, subject to maybe some final checking with the banks. I think they've all decided which variation is, and it looks like it's all based on SOFR. And all these existing bonds are the 1 month tenor of LIBOR. So SOFR is different from LIBOR, both because it's an overnight rate and also it's a secured lending rate. So to adjust over to LIBOR, you have to add a kind of a credit spread to get up from the secured rate to an equivalent kind of unsecured. And also SOFR's overnight versus 1 month LIBOR obviously is a 1 month tenor. So the way that it's done is most of the banks are electing to use a 1-month variation of SOFR, and there are basically two of those. One is called term SOFR, and that's basically on a given date, it's basically a prediction of what SOFR will yield the next 30 days. And the prediction is derived from the interest rate, fixed to floating interest rate swaps based on SOFR. So those are averaged to come up with a prediction of what SOFR will yield on average. The other is a backwards-looking compound average of SOFR for the last 30 days that's published by the Fed. So banks are using one of those two.
And we have to do all this by the end of June?
We started this 6 months ago, even maybe earlier, because you've had to round up all of these banks and developers and make sure that everybody agrees. So it's been a huge effort on the part of debt issuance and Kevin helping us.
The other bond councils.
Is this a refunding or mandatory tender or marketing, or what is it?
It's because they're directly held by the banks, it can just be done with consent.
Got it.
All the 5 bond councils who are involved in the various projects are all looking at there are taxable series, and then there are tax exempt series. The tax exempt obviously are based on 70 or 80% of 1-month LIBOR, so they go to 70 or 80% of 1-month SOFR plus the adjustment spread. So all the bond councils are looking at their respective deals and will give an opinion that the tax exempt series we want adverse based on some helpful guidance that the IRS came on how to do these transitions without triggering
reissuance. Yeah.
It's been incredibly complex.
I'm happy to be sitting here approving it. It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
Ton of
Very
work.
much appreciated,
Yeah.
but it's also absolutely necessary.
I know it's not an HFA thing, because I think HFA did the first SOFR swap in the US, actually. Anything on the swap transitions on the SONYMA side or other places in the agency that on the LIBOR side?
well, as you
Yeah.
HFA only has this. You
Yeah,
have
yeah,
the SOFR swaps. A lot of the borrowers will have caps for swaps that
Yeah.
are LIBOR based
Yeah,
for
yeah.
these deals, and the banks that who are the bondholders, have been working with them to transition from LIBOR to SOFR, which some of those were done pursuant to use of protocols that you just sign up for, and that's, I think, is the answer to the SONYMA question. That's what SONYMA.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Very helpful. And lots of work, wow, look, it's May, what, 16th? Yikes. Wow.
We're planning on closing most of these amendments this month so that it doesn't coincide with our June issuance.
Okay, great. Good work, and thank you for the presentation, and for taking on our questions. Anybody have any questions or comments? Let's do it.
Okay, now before the HFA members are resolutions to adopt that will transfer to the item. Assuming the first and second previously entered for HFA, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried, the resolution adopted.
Now we move on to the AHC consent item, which is item 13 on today's agenda. It's a resolution authorizing award of grant funds for certain projects, and it's in the materials. And Diane, I think we can just make it happen.
Okay. Now before the AHC is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Good. Somebody give our regards and congratulations to Dominic. There is he. He's in the back.
I'd like to know Queens is underfunded.
There he is. Hey, Dominic. How are you? Good work as always. And as Alex says, please don't spend it all in one place. Okay. Well, you can't. Look at the counties. Oh, my goodness. The next is, we're going to close up a little bit, Diana. I think there's no further business. So you have indicated. For the HFA and AHC boards this morning, would you please ask for motions and second to adjourn the meetings?
Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HFA and AHC boards, all in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motions are carried. The meetings are adjourned.
Thank you, B. She reaches for that microphone control, which I know brings her frustration, but she did it well. I could hear her voice. Terrific. So.
Yeah, you're done.
Thank you.
And Sadie's done. That's it, except for Sonny May. He said, except for, which is, we've got a Sonny May meeting coming up. However, what time, did we say this was gonna be 11:30 kickoff?
We said no later than 11:30.
Well, we have to wait for my friend James.
He's here.
Oh, my goodness.
Thank you, Sadie.
I think James is here.
Not that James, I mean, Mr. Freeman. Bye.
Yeah, so we can start now. I mean,
What if
James
some of us want to get a cup of coffee?
Well,
We
you
can
can-
technically have a half an hour break, technically. Though I know.
And Dave Capel, who appreciates, coming later, now is going to show up, but
Hey, can I resign from everything except SONYMA?
What's that?
I want a board that meets later.
Well, yeah, you only want to be on Sunny May. Yeah, then we'll change them again. You watch.
It's okay.
It's an experiment. Seems
gotten used
to
to
be
it.
going well. Today, it's hard to estimate how long things are going to take.
So
You have to have built in time for directors to ask questions.
Right,
I
in
would
our
have
meet,
said this meeting would have lasted much longer.
right, in our meeting notice, that's why we said no later than.
Is that why you kept Dominic away from the table?
I was looking
That's
for,
why Kenneth has been speaking very fast.
I was hoping for Professor Ford to arrive. I was hoping that he would arrive early. Thanks.
He did.
He did.
I'm glad that you're happy I arrived.
Yes, all right, we are.
It's not always the case wherever I go, so that's great. But, excuse me, I'm looking for that executive summary.
Oh, I'll show you.
I'm sure I'm just not finding it.
No problem. So
I'll know where to look in the future.
Yeah, so go to the, are you in the agenda?
I'm in the board minute.
Let's go to this.
This one?
Yeah, right. So, that would be agenda. And then, let's go to this first.
I gotta find my place. I got a long script today, Joyce. That's a lot of material here. Sheesh.
You're doing very well, Kenneth.
Well, we're moving through it.
I must say, I'm very impressed with how much you learned about it.
I tell you, I learn something new every month.
Day-to-day problems.
All right, I think it's time for me to get a snack.
Mr. Chairman. It's fine. It's always a pleasure. Actually, these are the most common. I saw a waiter at this restaurant, and always on the beef.
Why am I in the
No,
seat?
he's going to be part of the presentation.
Yes. I don't want to take, when you get home, you got to take me to
Oh, the MIS part.
Let's talk to me. President.
Yeah, it'll be the first item.
Yeah, no. And I think that, as I said,
Okay, so why don't you just grab my chair when they come up, I'll put up.
You have people.
I don't think it's gonna be hard. I'm just gonna ask,
Exactly. So that's great.
I had a sensitive phone call with a colleague of yours, Edmund Rivers. Well, with your president.
Oh, okay.
Because a colleague of yours is coming to work with me. Alexis McLean.
So do you have the slide deck?
Yeah.
Work with her. I've been there. This is my ninth year. I've watched her rise. So what is she?
She's going to be, I'm going to her inside yours, right?
No, I was gonna go make copies of it.
Yeah, just grab your, she's not,
Oh, okay.
she's not all about.
So mine's pretty far back. It's credit.
Very stable. She's always the voice of the students. That went all those, college counselors, boards, and all this. And that's one voice you always count on.
One more.
Students.
But I, one of those courtesy Christmas card list, but, you know,
Yeah, no, I mean, she could, you know, she made an offer, she, you know, she, Dr. Ramsey can't top that.
Dr. Ramsey is apparently a GP in that area. But she's not moving up. That's structure, that's structure. I had an opportunity. Starts in early June.
You know, you're very fortunate to have her, and I don't know what we're gonna do. But, you know, what is it, next man up, woman, next man, someone's gotta step up. I'm gonna step up, yeah, I'm sure. But, no, you got a good one there.
Thank you, thank you.
You know, she's, you know, and, a pleasant person to work with as well, which I count, you know, big points, because there's all kinds of brilliant people around, but you really rather not talk
We
to
spend
them.
so much time at work with the people with whom we work.
Exactly.
I often say it's, you know, more important how we treat one another in the workplaces.
She has coffee in front of her.
No, I don't have coffee. I don't even have internet here.
Oh, no. We
I
have
have
no
no-
facilities.
I think we're ready.
It's okay.
Let's get Diana, our trusted counsel, back to the table here.
She's busy.
Welcome. James Freeman, Wallace Ford, and others.
Certainly felt it.
Dave Capel, who have joined us.
Oh, thank you, Betsy. Betsy to the rescue.
Fee, who remains on the line in Syracuse. And we can start, if everybody's okay. We're actually, I guess, starting 15 minutes early.
How have you been?
Good, how about you?
Okay. Taking any vacation? You look relaxed.
I try to stay relaxed. Doesn't always work out, but I'm getting better all the time.
Were you relaxed when you were the mayor of Greenport?
You know, most of the time, yes.
Whenever I'm in that
Have you
town.
been to Greenport? It's just
I love it.
relaxing
I've
to
been-
arrive there. I think it's hard.
There were some rough moments.
Like when you eliminated the police department?
Exactly.
Let it be noted for the record. Not a lot of mayors have gotten away with that.
Yeah.
Except when you can take the savings and give it back to the property taxpayer.
You read that.
There's a little trade.
But what do you do for police protection in this county?
Town.
The town, we're
Southold.
entitled to the town without our own department. And it saved us,
So why should you pay for it when they can?
Exactly. A $2.5 million budget.
Plus, you know, have you seen the
Come
crime
on,
rate at
that's the
Greenport?
public service,
This is government.
No, I
It's
think
good
it's great.
government.
David and I were-
It's very hard to do. It doesn't always win you a lot of friends in certain circles, but it's the right thing to
You
do.
don't run for office to make friends.
No, exactly. No. But if you want to do the right thing, look no further than Mayor Capel.
It's a tough road to hoe.
When were you mayor?
What town is it? Greenport?
Southold.
Greenport, town of Southold.
Which is the whole North Fork.
All right, Diana, are we ready?
Have Shelter
I'm
Island?
ready.
No, not Shelter Island.
Part of the town.
Okay.
No, Shelter Island's separate.
Separate township?
Yeah, they'll be coming.
Diana's gonna open up our Sunny May meeting for today. Please, everybody was okay, is everyone okay with this opening? We're opening actually a little early, ahead of schedule, but I think everybody's here, so let's do it.
Okay. I will ask for a motion for the Sunny May Board.
Motion.
Second.
I will now ask for individual votes from each Sunny May Board member. If there are no objections, I will accept the previous votes of Chairman Adams, Ms. Wisnowskis, Mr. Olzak, Ms. Gonzalez, and Ms. Miller, all of whom voted to open up the earlier HFA, HTFC meeting. Professor Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Capel?
Yes.
I will ask for a motion for the Sunny May Mortgage Insurance Committee.
So moved.
Second.
I will now ask for individual votes for each Sunny May Mortgage Insurance Committee member. Chairman Adams?
Aye.
Mr. Olzak?
Aye.
Ms. Wisnowskis?
Aye.
Mr. Capel?
Aye.
I will ask for a motion for the Sunny May Audit Committee.
Aye. Or so moved, sorry.
Second,
Second. Oh,
I will-
I'm on it, am I?
No, yes.
Am I?
not. No, you can't do that.
Sorry, I know. Sorry.
Who is?
Joyce.
Okay, second.
There we go.
I will now ask for individual votes from each Sunny May Audit Committee member.
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Olzak?
Aye.
Great.
Ms. Miller.
I said aye.
Okay,
Sure you
good.
said aye.
Thank you. Okay,
Nay.
let's go on to the Sunny May Audit Committee agenda for today. Item 1, the minutes of the Audit Committee meeting of Sunny May held April 20th, 2023 shall be deemed approved, absent corrections from members and the directors. Any comments on the minutes from any of the directors from our last meeting in April?
Has
Okay.
anyone ever commented on
just
the
one.
minutes?
Some people
I thought
compliment
it
them.
was very comprehensive and useful set of minutes.
Uh-huh.
There's a reference to Professor Adams.
Ah.
I'm guessing
I got a
you're talking
promotion.
about me. So there's that.
There is that.
Noted.
We'll pick
Let's
that
go
up.
back and fix
Just let
that.
you know we actually read the minutes.
Don't say that at LaGuardia, I'll be in big trouble. All right, number 2, resolution recommending the approval of the Sunny May fiscal 2022 financial statements. I note that in connection with this item, staff prepared and distributed this morning to the board's PowerPoint presentations highlighting key points from the financials to be presented, as well as a programmatic summary of the past year's activities. This year, as part of our new procedures, each board has its own presentation. So the team is led by Darrell Johnson, is here for the, fourth time? I don't know. This is it, third time's a charm. Yeah, very good to have you again, and this time to do the Sunny May financials. And so, why don't you, Darrell, walk us through this, and let me do a reminder and do this myself. I believe on our laptops, those purple tiles are the PowerPoints you are going to use, correct? So, where's Sunny May? Here we go. If you have these, you know, you can follow along by looking at the purple tile or tab. Open that up, and then you'll get Mr. Johnson's PowerPoint presentation. Darrell, back to you.
Okay, so we're going to start off with the State of New York Mortgage Agency fiscal 2022 financial statements and program summary. Sonia Kinkel, who's our controller, is going to do the first slide in this deck.
Great.
Yes.
Morning, Sonia.
Okay, Sunny May's net position decreased by approximately $38.2 million. This is generally attributed to the change in investment valuation. Our net position increases or decreases based on our changes in net revenues. This year, in fiscal 2022, we issued we issued $656 million in homeowner mortgage revenue bonds, bringing us to $2.9 billion in outstanding bonds. We currently have $2.9 billion in mortgage loan receivables, and which is our primary asset. And Darrell's going to talk a little bit more about our net position.
Yeah, just a little more clarity, because if you look at the financial statements and you see a $38 million decrease for Sunny May, it looks like we had a profound loss to the agency. I can assure you the operations are working well. This is basically a mark-to-market loss, meaning that we purchased securities at one price, and the day we mark-to-market them, which was October 31st, 2022, they declined. And this is a result of the interest rates going up last year. The MIF has about $2.5 billion of investment, primarily treasury bonds, notes, and bills. And those get mark-to-market along with all the rest of the securities. That mark-to-market loss was about $200 million. Again, it's just a function of the business. We work very close with Mike Friedman in terms of how the investments are done and when they mature. So what we do as a policy to mitigate that loss is that we don't redeem investments until they mature. So that way, you know, we mitigate the potential of actually realizing that loss. So I just wanted to kind of explain that, make it a little bit clearer. All right, any questions?
Darrell, I'm sorry, Mr. Ford.
Just is it, I say, compared to other similarly situated entities, is this pretty,
I think it is. You know,
whatever
we
normal
take
is,
a very conservative investment policy. That's why we put up a lot of our investments in treasuries. I imagine other housing agencies do something similar. So this is not just a one-off with HFA. This is something that's across the industry.
Thank you.
And personal accounts as well.
Darrell, could you talk, we talked earlier at one of your presentations for the other agency this morning about the timing. And just again, so new board members don't think that we're going to see you every May, because we normally do not. Could you talk a little bit about the timing?
Well, I'm sure most of you are aware we implemented a new ERP system. We went live back in July of last year. So most of the operations are working very well. We had some difficulty in getting all of the reporting done in time for the January board meeting. So that hence is the reason for the delay. We wanted to make sure that we were able to get you good financial statements with EY, Ernst & Young's, preliminary approval on the audit. So this is a delay, this is a one-off as I see.
That's what I want to make clear. This is
Right.
not normal that we have this
is not
presentation in
normal.
May.
We intend to get back on schedule so that we'll be presenting this information in January of next year, not May.
Right, because it's the close of a fiscal year of October.
October, yes.
So it gives you November, December, January presentation, preliminary, right, with the outside auditors. So that's just, I wanted, again, just to be clear on the timing. And recognize that the team, here comes Danielle. The team has had to work that, you make it sound like light work, it's not at all. The whole conversion of the entire information management systems of all of the agencies to this new system, and then moving all the data over, tying everything out, right? So all of the, I mean, in the details, right, but that you described earlier, aligning the chart of accounts in the new system, making sure everything ties out, lots of testing.
But
and
we're
it's-
about 90% there, so I'm confident we can get
Right.
the remaining 10% done.
Got less a little bit. Yeah, great. Anything else, Derek? Should
Not
we,
on that slide.
do we want to,
We're gonna go, I think, slide by slide here.
let's go
right?
slide by slide, good. Next?
Any market overview, I think that's going to be. That might be
Mulina?
Yeah, again, for Sunny May directors, the remaining slides are not specific to Sunny May. They're really the context of all of our work. So you'll see, this is the next slide, is bond issuance across the country and sort of where we compare, so on.
Good morning again. So in 2022, there was about 411 billion of municipal bonds that were issued. Compared to last year, there was a decrease about 12.7%. Tax exempt issuance has decreased by 1.3%, and taxable issuance has decreased by 53.7%. Some of the decreases really relate to the fact that there's been a rising interest rate hikes by FOMC, and so there's a lack of refunding opportunities. If you flip to the next slide, housing issuances in particular also have gone down by 16.9%. Single family issuances, although have increased by 9.6%, multifamily issuances were decreased by 33.5%. This is due to the fact that in 2021, California issued about 6.4 billion in workforce housing bonds, so that's why there's a big decrease from last year to this year. Next slide.
Excuse me, I don't want to interrupt too much, but just because these numbers are striking, and given the housing crises that exist just about every place in the country, it's counterintuitive that we actually see issuances for housing, whether it's multifamily or single family, going down at this time. What can we attribute that to?
The trend,
aside from the interest rates.
Yeah, in terms of the trend of increase in housing has gone up. I think the anomaly in 2021 is the California deal that kind of spiked it up, and then that's why it showed that there was a decrease. But in reality, the trend has been going up for us.
Because we're still ahead of where we were in the prior year, just barely ahead of 2020. So that's a good explanation. I think you have a spike in 21. Joyce?
Just wondering, you still feeling the effects of COVID in terms of housing starts?
I think the effects have been diminishing. I mean, as you see, we have a robust pipeline on the single family side and also the multifamily side as well.
There were about just under 2,000 Sunny May purchases, right? In last year?
Borrowers,
I should say. First-time home buyers, right? And whose mortgages we bought, right, from the issuing banks. And that number, so that's a way to think of production, right? Sunny May production in this period of FY22 at, let's say, roughly 2,000 families, right, if you will. So I guess the question is, how does that compare, if anybody knows, like to the prior year, and what do we think is going to happen this year?
We'll get to that.
We're going to get to that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Stay tuned.
Excellent.
You're a slide ahead.
Sorry. No, no.
Sorry.
On the next slide, this is really relates to HCR issuances. There was a decrease for us in 2021. We were one of the top 3 leading housing issuers over the last 5 years. This year, I'm proud to say that we were number 1 again, and comprising of 6.5% of the housing sector.
It means we have a lot of volume. It's on volume, so it means we're very busy
Yeah.
and very active.
I would say it's a good thing.
On the next slide, I'm gonna pass it over to.
Some's refinancing, right?
What's that?
Some of it's refinancing, right?
Now comes the good stuff.
Yes.
Bond
program accomplishments.
Bond programs accomplishments. This is, who's doing this?
Darrell.
Oh, great. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. The SONYMA program, we increased our total number of loans during this 2022 by 15.8%. We had a great year. It was the most households helped in at least 25 years for the agency, so definitely successful. We increased our lending to households below 80% AMI by 33.9%. We increased our lending to cooperatives by 70%, and that was through the use of a particular program that was really successful. We maintained our portfolio performance in terms of borrower repayments with delinquency rates at 2.49%, which is well below the state average of 4%, even though so many homeowners were coming out of COVID challenges. We created 19.5 million of zeros to provide subsidy for future programs. And we continued our social bond and social impact goals with our program offerings and mortgage products. And this I'm going to hand off to you, Lolita, because it addresses our volume cap of 130.2 million in volume cap with replacement refundings and our targeted greater counterparty diversity. So it was all in all a really great year.
Thank you.
But
This helps.
slide 11 gives you even more.
Can we get, just, as soon as some rather brief statement with respect to the social bond principles?
So yes,
Some
I mean,
documentation you just sent us as to what that is,
certainly.
please.
Well, it is creating our programs. I'll be happy to send you, our mission statement and how our programs have sort of focused on the populations that have been underserved, right?
That'd be very helpful.
Absolutely, we'll
Thank
do
you.
that.
I assume for my colleagues as well.
Yes, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you want to continue? There's another slide 11, which has got some more details on the SONYMA bond programs.
Right, so a little more specifics, right? Our
Yeah.
program, we had 1,953 loans, which is up from 1,686 loans.
There you go.
In the prior year. And that was sort of divided between our Achieve the Dream program, which targets homeowners below 80% AMI. That program, we had 1,470 mortgage loans totaling $345.3 million. Our Habitat program, which we partner with them quite successfully, offered 53 loans at $9.8 million. And our low interest rate program, which helps households over 80% AMI. We had 430 loans totaling $124.6 million. And one of the successes of our program is our down payment assistance program. Over 70% of our borrowers received down payment assistance. That assistance totaled $16.4 million during the year. And again, our portfolio is quite strong. Our borrowers do very well. 97.51% of our loans are current, which performs much better than the state average of 95.1. And as you can see below, there's a chart that sort of gives you a flavor of our programs. All of our mortgages fall either under the Achieve the Dream program or the low interest rate program, as you can see. And then our add-on programs like Habitat for Humanity, Homes for Veterans, our model program, our neighborhood revitalization programs, those are added on to one of the two primary programs. And underlying all of those programs, all of our borrowers are eligible for down payment assistance, which is incredibly popular.
Great. Thank you. Questions on this slide on any of these important achievements?
Are you seeing a trend that banks are using these programs to eliminate homes from their non-performing assets and putting them back into the market?
So, yes, right. Our program does allow banks, and certainly we've done outreach to industry professionals like realtors, where our program is often utilized where there's no other credit available, where there's other lending that will not necessarily support mortgages for those programs. And we do see all types of mortgage products. Our Model New York program allows for those properties that are abandoned or undesirable, allows for renovation. Some of our programs that, like our down payment assistance plus programs, initially when it was rolled out, it targeted Western New York. That really increased our lending in that region. So both the marketplace and our program, we aim at finding where there's the greatest need.
So busy and good year for SONYMA.
It was a great year, very challenging, and we hope to have another great year this year.
Other questions or comments for the team?
Do you want to do the demographic?
There's a couple more slides,
Couple
right?
more good informative slides.
So as you can see, the first chart, assisting low-income families in home ownership, and our DPAL Plus program was really the reason why you'll see that in 2022, our assistance, particularly to households below 60%, really spiked that number compared to the prior 2 years. We've also served minority home buyers. There was an increase in 2022 as well. And when you consider that this was a year where the economy which is often most challenging to households of color, the fact that we increased our lending to those communities, I consider that a success, and we continue to push in that area. And target areas, assisting federally designated high poverty areas. We also increased that lending significantly over the past 2 years. And again, some of our targeted programs allowed us to do that. Our renovation program, our Model New York, and our DPAL Plus program with the expanded down payment assistance.
Can we get a sense of, this is again very helpful, so thank you. When you're talking about serving minority home buyers, and there's a trend upward, which is great. How does that fit in with the overall service of home buyers that the agency is involved in?
So it is one of our, it's a core element of our mission. And so our programs like Give Us Credit have allowed us to help more households of color, minority households than we had previously. And it encourages our lenders, in our role where we purchase loans that are already closed, we're somewhat, we're quite reliant actually on our participating lenders to approach those communities first, right? We can only buy what they deliver. And so our programs, like Give Us Credit, and certainly DPAL Plus in this particular year, really encouraged some of our most important partners to reach out more than they would have ordinarily done to what I would consider underserved communities, like the Western New York community and households of color throughout the state.
And so in terms of the overall activity of SONYMA, what we're looking at here represents what percentage of the overall?
That is correct. That is correct.
Well,
it is comparing.
30%? Is that what you're saying?
It's approximately 38%.
Okay. That's what I was trying to get at. Okay.
Yeah, it is approximately 30% of the overall volume.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that slide?
Very good. You want to go to 13?
Yes. So this is SONYMA's response to our COVID-19. Obviously, COVID-19 pandemic, the impacts of that sort of closed out during this year, and this slide just sort of illustrates how we handle that. Borrowers were offered an initial 6 months forbearance, and they were eventually offered up to 18 months of forbearance. And upon exiting forbearance during the time of the pandemic, they were given those 3 options once they exited forbearance. Either a repayment plan of up to 12 months, or an extension modification, extending the term of their mortgage period to incorporate the deferred payments, and a deferral of the mortgage, the forbearance amount at loan maturity, essentially creating a balloon if they took the loan to the remaining 30 years. And that has been super successful. Of the over 2,000 homebuyers that were in forbearance during the COVID pandemic period, only 13 loans remain in forbearance, and they are all, for the most part, current, and our portfolio continues to be strong. There are only 13 loans remaining in forbearance, 7 of which are current, and a remaining 6 that are delinquent. And
So
yes.
I just want to add here, so during the period of COVID, right from the beginning, we were issuing bonds, and we provided disclosure to the federal system of the very large numbers of Sonny Mae mortgage loans that were in forbearance. And the fact that during this period that started in 2020, because of the way that, Dina, Dorrell handled this, the number of loans was monitored, people were assisted, but they were assisted in such a way that the numbers decreased and folks came out of forbearance. The Mortgage Insurance Fund acted to provide a backup for the lack of interest payments during this early period. So to the tune of something like $20 million at least. And when you now see that, and we did about 7 filings detailing this to the capital markets because they were concerned since, Sonny Mae pays its bonds from the mortgage repayments. And we told the story in great detail. And the fact that now you're down to 13 loans from the original 2,000, over 2,000 that are in forbearance is a testament both to the borrowers, we have really good borrowers who, went through tough times but continued to make their mortgage payments and through the assistance that we provided. And what we did was separate from what the governor did at the time with the mandatory forbearance. Because we have bonds outstanding, we weren't permitted to do that. We had to, make sure that our bondholders got their money back. So this was all really structured by Sonny Mae for our Sonny Mae borrowers. And it's just extraordinarily successful. So I just wanted to add that.
Thanks for underscoring that, Alex.
Just a question, the deferral forbearance until loan maturity, does it compound, does interest compound over that period or with interest?
So yes.
Yeah.
Right, it is amortized in the same way it does. But most of our home buyers do not go the full 30 years.
Yeah.
So very rare that will result in a balloon payment.
Thank you.
I can't get over this bullet here. I mean, 13 loans out of 2,100. That's just quite a story.
Yes, it is.
And I guess my point is probably it's a story that needs to be told beyond this room here in terms of, because everyone, you always hear about the criticisms. If you're in public service, as you well know, but when there's a success story, and it's important that that message gets across. I'm not in charge of messaging. I don't know, as board members, we can mention it to our colleagues, but I would hope that there's something more that we could do to make sure that the public knows about this. This is a pretty big damn deal, and however that might be done, I think it's certainly worth mentioning. And congratulations to you and your colleagues.
Yes, it's part of the whole process. Our MIF partner in our initial underwriting, making sure that our borrowers are in a good position in the first place, our partnership with housing counselors before they closed the loan, all sort of got us to this point where we could successfully manage this crisis.
Great. Very good news indeed.
Question. Of the 13.
Yes.
It's an easy one. Of the 13.
Yes.
Does that include the 10 that were initially qualified and then denied? And then that was the $1 million that Dina had requested to provide them with assistance. Are they reflected in this?
No.
Okay.
No. I don't want to speak to specifics that I'm not super involved with, but I believe that what Dina would have been requesting additional assistance for was the HAF program, which is not these particular borrowers.
Okay.
And these folks are still in forbearance, so we don't know where, at the end of the forbearance period, I anticipate that they'll be in a good place.
As long as they maintain the loan for 5 years, they don't have to pay back the assistance, correct?
So again, that is the HAF program, not our.
That's the HAF
Yes.
program. Okay.
So our buyers have to pay back their mortgage, no more.
Great. Want to keep going?
Yes, and then our ongoing initiatives, our Give Us Credit program, and this circles back to what Professor Ford mentioned. That is our program that is specifically aimed at addressing racial disparities in lending by providing a broader, more inclusive definition of, and defining credit standards, and also basic typically saying to our lenders, for those loans that they perhaps would have declined before, that there's greater opportunity under this program, and we continue that program and hope to have a greater expansion of it. Also, our DPAL Plus program, which provides the greater a greater down payment assistance up to $30,000. At this time, it is only in the Buffalo area, but that is focused on home buyers earning less than 60% AMI. That program continues. And our manufactured home mortgages, which is a first in the country, offering mortgages to individuals in manufactured housing in parks as opposed to private land. And we continue that program with some of our lenders.
Great.
Yeah, when you, in the first bullet point, what are the non-traditional forms of income that are used or looked at?
Yeah, we looked at our standard underwriting and found 38 areas where we could expand review of credit. Many communities, immigrant communities, are unbanked, and so most of their transactions are done in cash, right? And so we give greater latitude to that. We allow folks to bring to the table proof that they have been financially responsible, even if it's not captured by their credit report. Also, there are non-traditional forms of savings, right? So a SUSU, right? Or it's called by many different names, which is a sort of shared savings vehicle that people often use for down payment assistance. So there are 38 points where we took our standard credit underwriting, and the MIF has been a great partner in putting up with some of the things that we asked for and granting it. But we took a very detailed look at the communities that were not being served and said, how could we help them? You know, in some areas, the transfer of generational wealth is a real concern where you know, perhaps grandparents were able to purchase a home, but how could they sort of transfer that in a way that the younger generation could afford to do so? So we allowed for greater latitude in gifts of equity, right? So relieving the burden of down payment. And also we re-examined how we evaluated student debt, which impacts so many households, in that we didn't hold it against them in the same way that traditional underwriting. All in all, about 38 points.
So that makes the forbearance rate even more impressive, no?
Well, yes. I mean, we're not putting anyone into a home that isn't ready for home ownership.
Right.
We're just giving greater weight to financial responsibility, greater financial management in ways that a credit report or our, what I'm going to say, traditional underwriting did not. You know, these folks, and I'm going to say often even immigrant communities, they are financially responsible. They just, you know, their behavior is not captured in a credit report, and that's what this program does.
Good to hear.
That's a
Congratulations.
good question, Joyce, and it's a very helpful explanation. Good. Great, thank you. But wait, there's more. Oh, this is the MIF. Is the more going to be MIF now, the mortgage insurance fund?
That'll be later.
Good. So is this, Mike? We're going to turn to Mike?
The monthly tax surcharge collections.
Well, listen.
That's one of your favorite charts.
There would be no mortgage insurance were it not for this,
Without the
Joyce, as
tax-
you know.
Oh, I know.
The dollar amount of mortgage recording tax received by the MIF increased in 2022 due to increased sales and refinancing in anticipation of an increase in interest rates. And if you look at the early months of 2022, in January, we had a $19 million month. In February, an almost $26 million month.
Wow.
And then in April, a $21 million month. So far, for the first 6 months of 2023, it's back down to 2020, 2021 levels. For example, in March of this year, the surtax was down to 11 million. So the increase in interest rates has had a deleterious effect on mortgage recordings.
100%, right, on transactions.
The next slide shows that HFA is by far the MIF's largest insured lender by loan amount, and CPC is the second largest by loan amount. And between 2018 and 2022, the volume of HFA loans that we insured increased from 250 million to over 350 million. And CPC volume remained pretty constant at just under 150 million. And the good news is that New York City HTC is back. The board in February approved 25% of a $60 million HTC loan for Riverwalk 8 on Roosevelt Island. And that's one where we're risk sharing with REMIC. And we just received another application from HTC for an additional risk sharing loan with REMIC.
So 2022, there's not even a green bar.
Right, we didn't
Nothing
issue
happened. Yeah.
any loans
Right.
for HTC.
Got it.
But they're back. We've done one.
That's what you mean when you say they're
We've
back.
got
right?
another one.
Mm-hmm, okay.
And then, over the 5-year period from 11/1/2017, the 19 is a mistake, to 10/31/2022, the MIF insured 150 HFA mortgage loans on affordable multifamily projects with 23,370 units. So it was a very productive 5-year period.
That's for sure.
Mike, where do you show the insurance on SONYMA?
We don't.
Oh, okay.
We don't. We just don't.
Let me, I don't know that we have a full answer at the moment, but we see back in 2018, looks like some real activity on the part of HDC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it declines and it disappears.
Yeah.
And I understand it's coming back a little bit. Not that you would have the full answer, but could you give us some guidance as to why the city is so far behind?
No, they kept doing loans, but they were doing them with Fannie and Freddie or without insurance. They have a GO rating on their open resolution.
Okay.
So they could do loans without mortgage insurance.
So this doesn't reflect their full activity.
No, they remained active, but not
Thank
with
you.
us.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, with rising interest rates, don't we have more of an appeal to bang them down a few basis points?
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
That's why one of the reasons they'll come back, right?
Right. Plus they want us to do risk sharing with REMIC.
Very good. Mike, who wants to handle the chart we have in liquidity and swaps?
Michelle.
Michelle. All right.
We didn't have enough chairs, so.
Welcome back.
So SONYMA, unlike HFA, is a veteran in this market. Our focus is on diversification. 90% of our debt is swapped. As you can see, we have about 467 million of liquidity. And our institutions that we like to do liquidity with are high-rated institutions, so we can minimize any type of risk. So everything is pretty much laid out, and our cost range in terms of our liquidity is between 45 basis points and 20 basis points. Any questions?
I don't see any Bitcoin.
And Michelle, again, just because for some of us who saw HFA before, it's that SONYMA has a lot more exposure to variable rate debt, right? Yeah.
Although SONYMA has always been very prudent in the amount of variable rate debt that we incur overall. So when the market went crazy in 2008, 2009, issuers like California got out of the business because they had so many variable rate bonds. SONYMA has a very, if you look at the overall portfolio, it's a small amount. And we've never had, knock on wood.
Small amount relative to the overall
Relative to the
portfolio, but
overall.
still greater than HFA.
Yes, yes.
Exactly why we
Absolutely.
see $467 million.
Yep.
Our portfolio, compared to the amount of debt, we can only go about 25%.
Oh, okay. Right. I should have known that. And any exposure amongst any of the providers? In other words, everybody happy? All the contracts are.
Everybody's happy.
Sure, they're making money. They make a lot of money. This is a good business. Great. Questions for Michelle on this? Super important. Well,
Just given the, best word I can look for these days, the lack of clarity in the entire banking industry globally, I see that
Hi, we're restarting at Lex. I'm not sure what's going on. Hold on.
Excellent.
We went dark here on Lexington. I'm not sure why. We're just checking real quick and see. It's not on your end.
Lillian?
Hi, our IT said we'll be back up in 3 minutes.
Thanks for adding the Google Map links.
Oh, you're the
Yeah, no, they're very helpful, because
Yeah.
it really, it's very helpful letting you understand what the location is, where the project is. You can even get a street view.
Yeah, it's a long drive for you, but you now go there. If you want to go and check out the project, you get in the car and drive about 7.5 hours, you'll be there. Diane, let's make it happen.
Now before Sunny Mae Mortgage Insurance Committee and the Sunny Mae Board are resolutions that were transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the Mortgage Insurance Committee and the board, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried, the resolution adopted.
Let's go to number 6, resolutions of the Sunny Mae Mortgage Insurance Committee. B, sound check. Hello, B, can you hear me?
Big, great.
Good to have you back. Sorry
Yes.
for the technical glitch there and the interruption. We're going up to project number 6, or item 6 in the Sunny Mae agenda this afternoon. Mortgage Insurance Committee and of the Sunny Mae Mortgage Board recommending and approving 100% mortgage insurance on a $19,740,000 HFA permanent first mortgage loan for a project at 2435 Pacific Street in Brooklyn. And again, Mike, back to you to talk about this mortgage we want to insure.
So this project comprises construction of 236 units and 4,000 square feet of commercial space. The 236 units will comprise 142 supportive units and 93 low-income units. This is not an ESHI project. It's a New York City 1515 program. And so New York City HRA will provide 1.8 million in annual rent subsidies, and will also fund social services. The social services will be provided by Brooklyn Community Housing and Services, which has been in the business since 1978. And the project will receive rent subsidies for 142 supportive units. 71 units will be reserved for formerly homeless families, and 71 units will be reserved for individuals with mental illness and chronic homelessness.
And, anything else?
Yes, the project is being developed by Alembic Development Corp., which was founded in 1977 and has developed 200 units of affordable and supportive housing. The insured loan amount is $83,000 per unit, which equals 12% of the project's total development cost of $719,500 per unit.
I was going to say, Mike, anticipating our interest in energy efficiency and things like that, here at least we can see there's an energy tax credit for the geothermal portion. I don't know if there's any solar. Oh, there is a solar array on this building.
Yeah, this has all
So it's
of,
almost $800,000 in energy tax credits, and the Con Ed Clean Energy Program, 1.6 million. So there's evidence just in the financing of the project that there's some energy efficiency happening here.
and when you look at the HFA memo, all electric, Energy Star, geothermal, solar, all kinds of energy efficiency features, so we should plug those in.
Yeah, let's move that information over so we can see it when it's considerate for sure is.
Was this the project that had the boiler in it?
Yes.
Okay. I was sitting in the back. The reason that you have the geothermal and a boiler, you have to do maintenance on the geothermal every year. And then also, when you switch it over from winter to summer, you have to drain the system and recycle the system. So you need a boiler to offset that, especially if it goes down in the winter also. And then you would need a battery about the size of this building if you're just going to run it off of solar. So you need the extra energy for it.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing, people don't talk enough about that, James, with the push for solar. Solar's great, but since battery efficiency is not there yet, you need a propane tank as your backup and a propane generator in most areas, like outside of a big city where you have a natural gas hookup.
Right.
So the idea to totally eliminate gas is actually, you see all these projects where no more legislation recently, no more gas. You can't do it.
I lost everybody again.
Me too, B.
Oh, well.
The motion is carried, the resolution adopted.
I'm feeling a little frustrated and sheepish that I don't see B on the screen.
Oh, she's right here
I
on
know
this
she's
screen.
there. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe you've got a solution to this.
Can she hear us?
B, can you hear us?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Right.
And Jesse as well?
Back live.
Yes.
All right.
And Jesse too?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much for figuring that out while the technicians played on the big screen. We're gonna go to number 8, resolution setting a mortgage insurance committee setting by board recommending approving mortgage insurance on a $24,450,000 HFA permanent first mortgage loan for the Wyandanch Building L project, which is in Babylon, which of course is in Suffolk County. So Mike, we'll go back to you for this last one.
So this project comprises construction of 218 all low-income units and 9,000 square feet of community facility space. It is, again, a very heavily subsidized project. It is a $23.3 million HFA new construction program loan. There's a $9.2 million HFA Federal Housing Trust Fund.
$1.5 million Suffolk County workforce housing loan, 500,000 from the town of Babylon. There's 58.9 million in federal low-income housing tax credits, 5 million in state low-income tax credits, and another 30-year pilot with the town of Babylon IDA. Project is being developed by Albany's Development. And it is the 5th affordable multifamily building to be constructed out of 10 planned under the Wyandanch Rising Community Revitalization Initiative. And this will be the third loan insured for entities controlled by Albany's with total exposure of 40.5 million. The insured loan amount is 612,000 per unit, which equals 18% of the project's total development cost of 612,000. And the project would break even with a pro forma 12% vacancy loss or a 15% increase in operating expenses.
Very good. Big, important project in Babylon. Thank you, Mike. Questions? Maybe James, comments? Since you're so familiar with this one.
A little bit. Question for you though. Forgive me because I only got 2 hours sleep last night. Is this the project where they're doing the remediation on the land?
I don't.
Somewhere in the notes.
Brownfield?
It doesn't have brownfields.
I don't think so.
Not this one?
I don't think
They would
this.
get brownfield.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Not that other sites there.
Just because it's Long Island doesn't.
Well, no, but I mean, it was a 40-acre site and some of the other sites might need remediation.
I don't think this is it.
It's on the south side of the tracks, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the other side.
Oh, I saw it in the notes somewhere. Might be another project.
No, it says here, phase 2 environmental site assessment before identified contamination.
There you go.
But I don't think it's a brownfield, it's just a
Could be a tank.
soil vapor layer.
Right.
Sort of like.
Right.
Or they could have found something that was really easy to remediate, didn't need to, right? Like an an empty underground tank comes up in the face.
Contamination remediated, pursuant to a soil and materials management plan. It's in this, HFA board now.
That'll move the
But it
dirt.
wasn't, I don't think it was brownfield.
No.
No, okay.
It was bad, but not that.
Yeah, but that.
Just contamination.
There you go.
Well, and they're fixing next to the Long Island Railroad, will do something to your dirt. When you stay there, you know.
Storage, the railroad ties, all that
Exactly,
stuff.
Creosote. That's forever.
What they used to coat the railroad ties with. If they stored it there, would be in the soil.
All you have to do is pile up a bunch of railroad ties, piece of land, let it rain on it for a couple of years. And it's contaminated the ground. All right, if there are no further questions or comments from Mike, Diana, let's move forward.
Now before Sunny Mae Mortgage Insurance
Quick
Committee and
question.
Sunny Mae Board, oops.
I'm sorry.
There's 1.5 million for workforce housing, everything included in that. In the project, is there any conditioning on them training individuals to work on site for the project?
This is money coming from.
It's coming from Suffolk County Workforce Housing.
We can get the term, we can find out what their terms are of their money, I don't know.
Sometimes they just call affordable housing in a certain band, workforce housing.
Right.
And they're just calling it that. Like the tenants are gonna be people who work in the local economy.
Right.
And we used to have this, remember, with John Ballin used to bring up, this former board member said, what does that mean? Would someone please define, like, most people work, so what is workforce housing? Not, maybe we can find out, what does it mean to the town of Babylon?
If they have any sort of strings attached, it's from the county, right, so they have these strings attached to their.
Yeah,
Any
it's
requirement?
scary,
Usually-
it's $1.5 million.
Right, usually from the county and also from the grant. If they provide certain projects, you have to offer work training and also
employment and other things for people to actually work on a project. Some of them usually come back and say, we couldn't find anyone to train, or there were no qualified individuals to work on the project. So I was asking, because of the nature of this project, is that subject to them hiring or doing training of any of the individuals in the line dance to be able to facilitate the project, especially since there's 5 more to be done.
Yeah, that's like a local hire mandate.
Right.
They may have that in the county, they may have.
Yeah.
That in the.
Richie Schaefer? No, who's?
Richie.
Rich.
Yes, town supervisor, right?
And Steve Balone is still the county exec, that's the exec.
Till the end of the year?
6 more months. All right.
Invalid webinar
question.
panelist numeric password. Try again. Enter the webinar panelist numeric password. Invalid webinar panelist numeric password. Try again. Enter the webinar panelist.
All right, let's, James, are you good with this?
Yeah.
Questions, okay?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Now before Sunny Mae Mortgage Insurance Committee and the Sunny Mae Board are resolutions that were transited in connection with this item, assuming the first and second previously entered for the Mortgage Insurance Committee and the Board. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion carried, the resolution adopted.
Mike, I think you're done, right?
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mike. Goodbye, just like the
Thank you.
recorded voice said, goodbye. Now we'll move to the Sunday May information items, current agency procurements and contracts in the lobbying restricted period.
You gotta go to our.
No, I missed something important. Number
Mission
9, resolution approving revisions to the mission statement. Forgive me. So number 9, I've got to find it here. It is. My materials. The 2023 mission statement, State of New York Mortgage Agency. So, we had a discussion several meetings ago about making some changes to the mission statement. And Diana, do you want to give us an update on where we are?
Sure. We put it all out in the memo, but as the board will recall, we raised the mission statement at our January board meeting, and we, in our discussion, the members had some comments and thoughts and wanted to make certain changes to add certain specific references dealing with green initiative, climate bonds, new construction, expanding diversity, development, and expanding diversity in contracting. So what we did is we went back and did the HFA one, and now this is the Sunny Mae one. So you'll sort of see we included here in your packet both the marked copies, so you could see the change that we made. And particular primary change is to add a section to measurements to measure the number of loans financed by the agency for African American, Hispanic, and other ethnic populations that have historically been underrepresented as homeowners in the state. We also added a section to the section found in the mission statement on the role of the board. So, board members' concerns and reflected through this mission statement. Thoughts, comments?
Thanks, Diana. Yeah, let's open it up for discussion.
Yeah.
People. Questions, comments on the revisions to the mission statement? In the right direction.
Well, I'll say that based on the information that we provided in the prior meetings, you listen to what we said, and it's reflected in the mission statement, and I appreciate that fact. Because, we bounced around a couple of times, but you listen and you put it in there, and you left enough space to be able to expand on it so that we can evolve it to make it even better. So I appreciate that, very much that's been included in there. And then also the way that the language is structured as well. It reads better and it's nicer. So thank you for that.
I would just note for the record that Sabrina stole my notes. I was going to say that, but no, quite seriously, I want to commend staff for following up as Professor Adams.
Yes, he does. One mistake in the minutes.
Yes, he does.
No, I didn't. Thank you.
I think it really reflects the importance of the members of the board and working together. This is into the schedule around November, but I think the goal here is to make this board impactful for us, as staff as well as for board members. So I focus on board members for so thoughtful. Worked it out, lots of
Back and forth.
yeah, a lot of back and forth, which we didn't get a chance to see, but Alex for the book. So, any event, so if there's no further, I would.
Let's do it.
Okay, so now before SONYMA board is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. In the first and second previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is
Aye.
carried.
MBBA, I think you're still connected here, and Alex as well. Or, sorry. Jesse. We're going to move on to the SONYMA informational items. They're in the materials that Will sent around. The current agency procurement and contracts in the lobbying restricted period. We always need to be mindful of that. The MIC, or Mortgage Insurance Committee activity report for the month of April. Thank you, Mike, who's no longer at the table, but for very that. And if there are no questions about that, we have a special presentation on cybersecurity procedures. This was requested by the SONYMA board at last month's meeting in April, because we had this report that you all had shared with us of an internal audit. I think Connie presented the report on a servicing bank that had itself been the victim of a cyber attack. And that led to a series of questions, I think people will recall. So Betsy is here with us this morning to talk about our controls around cybersecurity.
Good afternoon. So it is 12:30. I just want to make sure folks are okay. We have about 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, good. Okay. So as not Professor Adams said, this is in follow-up to the key bank audit that raised some questions in last month's meeting around cybersecurity. 2 critical questions were raised. One was around what our procurement stipulate regarding cyber disclosures, and the second was what liability might the board members have in the event of a breach. Before we answer those, I want to also remind the board, or those members of the board who were here, and then give some context to new members around actions that we've taken over the last couple of years to increase and improve our cybersecurity posture here at the agency. And so I have Tom Miller, who's our Chief Information Officer, and Alex, who you know, are going to help to do some of that. And of course, to answer the 2 questions that were asked. So in the beginning of 2020, just in the first quarter of 2020, we had a cybersecurity scare here at the agency. And then at the end of 2020 was quite a year. At the end of 2020, we then were implicated in the large-scale attack, of one of our vendors, SolarWinds, and that was a very public. I mean, it implicated lots of agencies and organizations. To help us respond to both incidents, those of you who are here might remember that we engaged Venable, a major law firm, and then they in turn engaged a large cybersecurity incident response firm called Strauss Friedberg. In both investigations, and luckily, and all of this has been public, no evidence of compromise was found. But as we did that, and actually simultaneously, we were in the process of already beginning to try and hire a third-party firm to help us increase our cybersecurity or improve our cybersecurity posture. But we worked with Strauss, and we worked with ITS, Central ITS, and we worked with our colleagues at NYSERDA, who are very mature in their understanding of cybersecurity, to develop a plan. And we brought in a third party. The board approved a third party contract with a firm called SecureWorks. And we've subsequently implemented many of their, almost all, I think, of their recommendations. So Tom Booty, who is not here, who was at the time the interim head of our IT, deserves a tremendous amount of credit, and his team, Harry and others. But Tom Miller, who is now here, is going to explain some of what we did. And then I would also just say that at the time, we also asked the board for permission to adjust our budget to procure a cybersecurity insurance policy, which we didn't have at the time. We talked about what that policy should look like with Venable, with Strauss, and then with some of our sister agencies to see what they had. So Tom's going to just quickly talk a little bit about what we did with SecureWorks and what that insurance policy holds, and then Alex is going to go on to answer the 2 specific questions around what our procurement agreements stipulate regarding disclosures and any other protections you have around liability.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. As Betsy said, partnered with a top-tier security firm called SecureWorks about 2.5 years ago. And in working with them, have implemented a number of sort of measures to improve our overall security posture, many of which concepts you'll probably have heard or understand, but including endpoint protection so that all of our endpoints, the computers, the handheld devices have agents on them that ensure there are no malicious software trying to be installed on them, malware, those sorts of malicious attacks. Implemented intrusion preventions to make sure that anyone trying to illegally get into our network, we detect that and prevent them from doing it. Multi-factor authentication to ensure that if you're trying to log in, we make you go through a couple of different factors for logging in to make sure that you are who you say you are.
Is that why we're not able to log in here?
I don't. Thank you for that, Betsy. I don't know what the issue with that was, although we had our entire service delivery staff here trying to fix it. I have already emailed them to say what was going on with that, which I will let you know after this meeting. Web application firewalls, again, to protect the perimeter, typical sort of cybersecurity defense in-depth measures that exist today. Again, all in conjunction with our partner SecureWorks. Happy to take any questions about our security posture in general.
Consistent with other state agencies and authorities.
Consistent with the sort of nature of cybersecurity in general, both in the public sector and in the private sector.
So the question, of course, is, I guess we all want to know what we don't know. And just from your professional standpoint, what are some of the concerns that are perhaps over the horizon that some kid, his mother's garage, or perhaps a little bit level?
Yeah, it's usually, I mean, if it's the kid in his mother's garage, it's usually just a smart kid who's smart enough to figure out how to hack into people's networks. The more malicious actors are, China, North Korea, right? We hear about them trying to more at the sort of federal level, but no reason why they wouldn't try to access state level resources. But again, my opinion, and I think that cybersecurity professionals would say this, we're still at a point where the most common intrusion happens through social intrusion, right? So I convinced Betsy to let me have her password, and then I log in as her and get access to resources. So awareness is a big part of cybersecurity, and I should have mentioned that we mandate cybersecurity training to all of our employees, to make sure that they don't fall subject to the phishing attempt.
Pardon me, but are there updated trainings? In other words, once is fine. If you did it 3 years ago,
Yeah, no, it's an annual training, and it's the kind of training that we all kind of snicker at. But its purpose is to try to raise awareness so that when you receive that email that says, "Oh, click here because you won $1 million," right? Whatever, or I'm the prince of whatever country that we've never heard of. I want to give you $50 million if you send me a quarter, those sorts of silly emails that we used to get. Just to raise the awareness that, hey, you know what? Think before you click those links, right? And make sure that it is what you think it is.
I don't want to take too much time on this, but I'm hoping that this is part of a statewide and sort of state governmental initiative.
So we partner with our ITS agency, IT services, which is sort of the state level IT organization that provides IT services for all of the New York State agencies.
Thank you.
They also provide service to Stony Brook as well.
Do they support the SONYMA?
I don't know.
I'm not sure of that. Find out. Okay.
They have a multi-tier system to where you go home, you can't log into the company system from home,
right?
Unless they approve it.
Yep.
So you can't do anything personal on business computers. It has to be completely separate.
Yep. We have the same. You have to VPN in if you're on a private computer, which again adds a level of security in that. And we have similar. This is what the web application firewalls that we have allow us to do is we can block IP address ranges. So we could just flat out block all IP address ranges if they're originating from China, let's say.
Then with SecureWorks, with the system that we have now for cybersecurity, with it being active for 2 years now, 2.5 years, is this a new system for them that they've upgraded, or is this an old system? And the reason I ask this is Suffolk County, the clerk's office, one email got through the clerk's office and it destroyed the entire system. It was a brand new system that was only 2 years old.
Yeah. But again, that's an example of the social aspect of it, right? It was an email that came through. We can't stop email from coming. Could technically, but we would arguably shut the business down if we said only allow emails in from people that we know. So typically companies and agencies don't block, fundamentally block emails, right? But that email that came in isn't what broke the system. It was the person taking action on what the email asked them to do that broke the system. And that's the social aspect of it. That's the human aspect of it, where, again, the best we can do is try to make sure that there's awareness of, and make sure you know who's sending you this, and make sure you know what they're asking you to do.
SecureWorks isn't actually providing us a system, though. They're providing us sort of a framework and consulting services.
Yeah, we use some of their software as well, but they provide monitoring for us on a 24/7 basis. So they're watching the requests that come in through our firewalls. They're watching the various areas of our infrastructure to make sure there's nothing that looks malicious going on. But again, they're not interrogating every email that comes in.
Right.
That's much more of a human.
And it's great that you got the insurance, because Suffolk County, the $2 to $4 million that they spent on that, they will never get that money back.
And that's where insurance is good. I mean, personally, I think there's a lot of loopholes in cyber insurance that, again, and this is sort of typical, in my opinion, of insurance companies that try to find ways of not paying the insurance claims. But, certainly things like that where you incur expenses because of a breach, that's where cyber insurance helps.
All HCR employees, state employees also take an annual training, and it's a webinar, a module. What's what's suspicious of.
Something that you just referred to? Yeah, something that. Yeah.
It would be helpful to do it for board members.
Oh, I'm sure we could.
We're not gonna give you an HCR address.
I got one this morning.
And do you want to?
Yeah, so there were two other questions just very quickly that were raised at the meeting. One was directors' liability. There was a question about the D&O policy. So all of the directors are covered under the state's public officers law for any action within, as long as it's not intentional wrongdoing. You are indemnified, and you're also provided with representation by the Attorney General. So that applies to every board member in our agency under any of these circumstances, except for malicious. In addition to that, the agency has purchased the directors and officers liability insurance. That in many ways is sort of an add-on. I mean, you could argue that it's not required because you're already covered with one layer. But we have that anyway with a liability of $5 million, $1 million deductible. Again, that's just an add-on. And but that liability policy, one of the benefits of it is that it not only protects the directors, but it also protects the entity. So that if SONYMA or HFA suffers a loss, that would be covered, separate and apart from the cybersecurity policy. So I think you're covered under really the state and an additional policy that we keep current. And then the final question was, okay, so this bank, do you have provisions in our agreements with the banks that they're required to comply with all of these federal laws regarding data security? We do, and they did. They contacted the state controller or the office of the controller, but they didn't reach out to us. So in our agreements with them, we do have a provision that they're required to inform us of this within 10 business days of the event occurring. Recall, they informed us 22 days later. So we're going to put that in. We send bulletins to our servicing banks to remind them of certain things.
And because of the finding, because this is the second bank that this has happened, we're gonna include that in there to remind them that they do have this obligation to inform us within 10 business days. And now they did inform us, and they did everything they had to do on the federal side. But we're gonna just remind them.
I thought they didn't notify us until the audit process.
They notified, the audit process discovered this sorry tale.
Right.
They immediately notified the federal banking folks, and then they notified all their clients, including us. But 22 days later was when they informed us.
Okay.
Hanim's audit discovered that. And I think we're just gonna remind them, hey, look at your agreement. You were supposed to have
It's
reached
10,
out
not
to us.
22.
Right. So.
All right, Alex, thanks, very helpful. That's helpful. Any other
you.
questions from members about the cybersecurity concerns?
Thank you very much.
Are we good?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
I think that's a wrap.
There being no further business.
Whoa. I beg your pardon. There's something.
Oh, that's you.
This is, no, yeah, first of all, I get to do that. See, sometimes I take your script, sometimes you take my script.
We're a team, we're a team.
We're a team. But following that presentation, and before I do, yes, with certain enthusiasm, ask for motion during the meetings, I want to talk about something that's not on the agenda. And that has been an ongoing request to get a representative of Empire State Development to give us an update on the MWBE policies and procedures of the state and how these agencies fit into that. And I know, because we've been talking to some members of the team here, and I just want to put this on the table, have a brief discussion of this, but apparently there isn't any. Apparently ESD is in the middle of a search for a new person to head up the MWBE unit. That's a cause for concern for them, well, for everybody. That's a very important department over at ESD. And because they don't have a permanent person in place, or if they do, the person must have started yesterday, it was felt that the person, or the lack of a person, meant who could come and present, and the juniors, say, the subordinate staff people weren't the right representatives of the agency. So we still don't have a presentation by ESD. I think I speak for the group when I say we really would like that to happen as soon as ESD and Hope Knight, who's a friend, who's a terrific commissioner and CEO over there, can send someone to come and describe the policy, procedures, actions around MWBE firm, and I should say service disabled veterans as well, the SBOV, certifications, availability, procurements, policies, everything under all the agencies affected by Article 15. So I just want to say that was supposed to be on the agenda. It's not on the agenda, Diana, and we certainly hope it can be on the agenda, maybe June, July, but whenever ESD can send us a representative to make that presentation. Something that occurred to me that I have to say I discussed with Professor Ford recently is that's an important presentation for the big view, but it would be helpful, I think, some of us believe, if we could have a view of how these particular agencies are doing with respect to MWB procurement, goals, and success so far. And again, I think I recall that normally we get an end of the year presentation, I think in December. And it's, hey, almost June will be 6 months since December. Could we ask, or at least this is just something I was thinking about recently, for Ruth Ann, for you to identify the appropriate people here to sit at this table with us at the June meeting and give us an update on all the MWBE activity and have a good Q&A, a robust Q&A session, just about what's happening here, right, at the house at HCR, while we wait for ESD to prepare a more formal report with the person who can deliver that. So I just throw that out there for the group, if that would be, that we get both presentations, right? ESD, we don't really control the timing of that. The other one we could. So first of all, what do you think about that, and what are other directors think?
I think that's great. We'd be happy to do it.
June? Okay, so we could have this on the agenda for the June meeting, and let me open it up to others who may want to comment.
I think it's a great idea. And it's in the annual review because of a lot of changes.
Right.
I mean, our work is a little lumpy, so it's 6 months isn't always going to reflect what the year is, but it's just helpful to check in and out, I think, at least. Or we can also look at where we've been.
Give us an idea of what's happening.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're happy to do that.
I would certainly support what you suggested. I would also just say that be very clear, two things. One, I'm extremely disappointed with ESD. I've worked in government for too many years, too many different state and city, not to know a runaround when we didn't. So I'm just,
just cross that. I know Hope Knight for 25, 30 years. I was told not to call her, to start anything, whatever. So I called her, will not be calling her. But this is just, there's a notion in government of something called collegiality. And this is just so far below even the lowest levels of collegiality. I just don't know what to say. So I support what you're saying, because by the time ESD gets around to it, I'll be celebrating, hopefully not by myself, my 1-year anniversary here. And I really, came on board with a specific mission mandate, see more being done with respect to minority business enterprise activity throughout this agency, all of its aspects. And particularly, quite frankly, with respect to the Black community. Not, I believe, being represented enough with respect to ever indicia and measurements. So it's not enough just to kind of beat a dead horse with respect to that. I'm interested in not trying to berate anybody or certainly not just make so it seems to do that. But quite seriously, I'm looking for solutions, and we can, as board members, articulate solutions, assist the staff of the organization and I would look at the June meeting as a good start. As far as ESD, I'm just done. I don't want to comment on it more. I don't think it would be particularly useful, but I don't think as an agency, as a part of state government, that we should accept this kind of behavior. I think it's just highly inappropriate. This can has been kicked down the road so far as no longer a can. It's just a crumpled piece of something. So, I'm all in favor of, let's see where we are. See that as not simply a report, but as a starting point for seeing what else can be done. They stop getting better, and all of us, I think, ascribe to that in our own professional activities. So it's not a criticism of SONYMA to say it can be better, but it's just an observation and fact of the organization. So let's see where we are, and then let's see where this moves. And I certainly, speak personally, will do everything I can to support it.
I am surprised that the agency decides it's not.
Did I lose Joyce? Is that Joyce?
Yeah, B, can you hear her? She was just saying that she was surprised that there's not a deputy director. Yeah, but I think it's a new person.
Yeah. So could I add a little bit to the presentation, and that is,
B's trying to talk. B, go ahead, please.
so I would be interested in having a little more awareness and knowledge of the connection between the agency and the community-based partners, right? Because in Syracuse, for example, I know that Kerry Quaglia at home headquarters, he's got an excellent MWBE program. And so when he partners with the agency, I feel comfortable. But that may not be the case with some of our other partners. So I'd like to expand the web a little bit and get a better understanding of some of our partners as well, because they help carry forward the work. Am I making sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Would that include the banks that we work with?
I think it should, right? Because and the banks have a very big, serious tradition of redlining in this community, right?
Yes.
So.
That's different. That's a procurement. Because, certain businesses can be certified depending on their, like MWB, publicly traded company, like Citibank, for example, cannot ever be an MWB because of the nature of its ownership, unless I guess, all the stock were owned by, but it's so.
Well, but I'm wondering, just as far as.
This is why we need, it gets complicated, right? So
And their size.
there's a matter is availability, right?
Well, I'm just thinking that as part of the increased interest in ESG investing, that banks must have some kind of.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good, unfortunately, Wallace is not gonna want to hear me say this. This is actually an ESD question, because they have the whole state policy, they carry out article, they're the enforcers, if you will, regulators under 15A. And so that banking question is tricky. Because who owns the bank, right? But it's a good point.
I think that one of the programs that I think SONYMA is working on is this special
purpose credit.
The special purpose where we actually, exactly at Bank of America, they have these special purpose programs to provide loans in underserved communities. And I think our goal is to partner with them and say, listen, if you make those loans, we'll buy them. So to encourage them to make loans that they otherwise wouldn't make. And that's something that I think,
like through
JP
CDFIs.
Morgan and Chase still have its community lending bank.
I think they sure.
Yes, but they work more in the tax credit side, I think less on.
On the lending side?
TD Bank is actually trying to expand into developing more in different diverse communities. That's why I was surprised I didn't see them more in their swap and their, more investment with them, because they have 13 businesses separately that they're trying to expand in the United States a whole lot more. But on the ESD side also, being a new board member, I would have liked to have seen someone here to basically just go over the basics, to bring us in from the beginning. What is ESD? What do they do? How is our relationship with them? Also, getting a greater understanding of what they do. To sit and wait for a new president or a new vice president on every team I've ever worked on, any one of the individuals that worked on my team can come in and tell you what we do.
Right.
The new person who's coming in as the president or the vice president, there's going to be a learning curve for that individual to even understand what ESD is doing and what's going on now. So June may end up being December. December may end up being next June by the time they fully understand what's going on. So my suggestion is, can we get somebody to come in to basically just do the overview? Yeah. We don't have to do the full state policy, but let us understand what they do and how our relationship is and how it links.
It is rare that I disagree with this, but as far as I just want to show on the record, I'm through. When it comes to ESD, they come, if they don't, they don't. It is absolutely unconscionable from organizational standpoint, how state government is supposed to work for this to happen. So I think we need to try to, your point, Mr. Chairman, to see how we can get our house in order with respect to that, and hopefully one of the outcomes will be some kind of task force, because we need to and have better. It just occurred to me in his presentation at partner from Hawkins, Delfield Wood. 39 years ago, I was president of the State of New York Mortgage Agency. Council was Hawkins, Delfield Wood. Okay, I'm sure they're still doing a very good job. What I'm just saying is that there's other firms out there that also ought to be participating at the same level. And unless and until we see that, we're not seeing the kind of progress that I know I'm here, could here, try to make happen, not in the most collegial of ways, but we are not where we need to be as a city, as a country. And, certainly we can do better. So I'm all in favor of that. I'll put whatever effort is that we can in regard, but I'm not going to, what is it, the myth of Sisyphus? You roll the hill, almost got to the top and it rolls back down on you over and over. That's ESD and us at this point. If somebody wants to work that out, fine, but I think we just can't get stuck on ESD, and that's why we can't, that's not a useful conversation. Abolish that sentence. Follow what you suggested. Let's find out what we can do. And then.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Court.
This is Jesse. I apologize. I have a hard stop, so I'm going to have to leave. Thanks.
I think, Jesse, your time is probably quite all right, but thank you very much for your participation today. We'll see you in June. And unless there's anything else to go to the order, I'll ask for a motion, please, to adjourn today's meeting.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right. We've got an agenda item from June. What's the date?